Welcome back to Film Club, and we're early and we're late. I don't know how we did.
Somehow we pulled off both.
That's true.
Yeah, we did
That's
that.
true.
We're early, but we're late, and so that was good. But everybody, slightly early because somebody's going to do something romantic later. Where you can guess which one it is. So maybe from that giggle. But yes. Yeah, so we've got the Rear Window, and I always say it's not the Rear Window; it's just Rear Window. So that now this is one of Sandy's. This is 1954, 56,
54. So 54.
54. So I think this is now. Is this now our earliest one? It's got to be, hasn't it?
One of for sure. I wanted to say,
yeah, I think
we had one in the 50s. I just can't remember which one it was.
That's it. So so this is our first Alfred Hitchcock movie. The man of suspense, I suppose you want to call it, of the lead up to movies. So Sandy, like,
this was me. Oh, by the way, Casablanca, 1942.
42.
Oh,
okay. Yes,
that's the oldest.
So let's give credit. Yeah. So Rear Window. So, and I think some folks forget that this is also Alfred Hitchcock. I think we automatically think of Psycho and The Birds kind of first, and then North by Northwest won the most awards. And my favorite is Dial M for Murder, but this is Rear Window, and this is the one that has been parodied the most. And so from episodes of The Simpsons, where Bart is looking through a telescope and he thinks he sees something, episode of Frasier where Martin Crane is looking through a telescope and thinks he sees something, even I Love Lucy, when Lucy and Ethel are looking out a window, and it's all about that, when I'm being a kind of a voyeur and I'm only seeing bits and pieces of people walking by the window, is my brain filling in all the other stuff that's happening, or did I really see something that might have been murder, which is the short story that this is based upon, is called It Must Have Been Murder by Cornell Woolrich, and that was written in 1942. And we'll go into that in a little bit. But this film is a couple of things. Number one, I don't know if we call it a mystery. I call it more of a thriller, more of a little bit of a psychological thriller. Because
it's a suspense thriller, but that is a Hitchcock movie. That's what he kind of invented.
It is, but the other thing this is trademark classic Hitchcock, because when we see a Hitchcock film, we're not just listening to the dialogue and watching the performances. He was all about the setting. He was all about the cinematography, and he had a thing about rooms. He had to create the perfect set of rooms. And what better way to display different kinds of settings in rooms than to have an entire apartment building across the courtyard from you and have these little windows into the lives of people, room by room by room by room. And so while he didn't create these elaborate settings inside the rooms, he created each little setting inside each of those rooms.
Now, I didn't look this up. Sorry, Sandy. The settings that we get, what we got in this poster, was that staged? Was that a stage set?
Oh yeah,
it looks like 100%. Yeah,
yes.
But that's a big lot.
Big lot.
It was impressive too, I have to say.
Yeah, because
that was one of the things that stood out to me first.
Yeah, I was like, is it half done? I'm not too sure. So,
yeah, no, definitely this is a set, and you can kind of see the trademark, um, I don't know, I call it like the trademark street design. During those few scenes where the camera peers in between the buildings and you see like the delivery truck go by the street or something, that actual sidewalk and street just look like that fake and phony Hollywood street. And then here you get the fake and phony behind these buildings. That's obviously a painted set or a constructed set, the buildings behind the building. So I've
because
seen
I didn't know if they use the trick where they use miniatures and then kind of blue screen it back in them days, wouldn't it be? And then that used that, and then the rest, like you can see the backdrop there in the background that you pulled out, because it's blatantly painted. It's like, and when they get to night, it's blatantly like a different painter. They brought in a different painting.
So like, these are each little rooms, literally apartments built on scaffolds with all about the lighting. So I'm imagining inside each of these rooms, the lighting was extraordinarily bright so that you could peer into each of these rooms that were constructed. And so I had seen this a few times before. James, you had seen it, or you hadn't? Had you seen this before?
No, I've seen it multiple.
Okay.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times. Yeah, I must say, like, I hadn't seen it for. I've not seen a Hitchcock movie. Ooh, I don't. Probably since the Hitchcock movie, the movie about him, I've not seen. Like, probably watched Psycho, because I think Jay was like, I can't remember it, so we put on Psycho. But the rest, I don't. Yeah, for like at least 15 years, it would have been one that would have been on when it's on TV. Kind of just you pop on a channel and it comes on, but nothing I've gone, ooh, I want to watch that. But yeah,
so hold that thought. Hold that thought. So Jay, you hadn't seen this, right?
No, I hadn't seen this, and this was actually my first Hitchcock movie, I believe.
And your first okay. So I'm glad, because when I read the short story, I was immediately very disappointed that I had already seen the film a couple of times in the past and was about to rewatch it again, because number one, the short story is a slightly different story, and I think a better story. But also, but now every time I watch a Hitchcock film, I'm digging into the set design and the scenery, and because of the kind of the trademark things you look for in his design. And so I'm not actually absorbing the film. So Jay, your first time and your first Hitchcock film, I'm hoping you kind of, you don't know about all his meticulous things about floors and lights and windows and ceilings and curtains, but you were just watching the film.
Yeah, basically, I outside of knowing that he's a very legendary, director and all that, I don't know much about him in terms of, like you said, style, all that, attention to detail, his meticulous nature, any of that. So it was really just kind of experiencing his style for the very first time, which I was honestly, I have to say, I was impressed. Like I said, that was one of the first things that stood out to me, was just the look of the set, knowing that it was a set in studio. Because I think when I first looked it up, I wanted to see if it was on YouTube, and the first it showed like it was, and I clicked on it, and it turned out to just be a trailer of it. So the trailer was actually interesting to watch, because it was I've never seen a trailer like that, the way it's set up in terms of like the actor kind of telling you about the story. So I thought the trailer was actually really cool to see, but that gave it away to me that it was all done on a set. So when I then got to the movie, seeing the set in its kind of entirety of being filmed and all that, I was just really impressed. Like, again, this is one thing I think for me that I try to do as much as I can with older movies like this, is don't look at it as what they do now, and look at it as what this must have meant for its time and how this was done in its time. And it's really impressive. I mean, truly it is. And just, on top of that, I not to spoil my kind of take on it, but I enjoyed it. It was a really, really interesting watch. And I think some of the concepts in it are really interesting as well.
I'm so glad. And this is a good one for a rewatch too, for those who are really interested in how movie design and set design is done. Everything from, number one, you're meeting a lot of characters in this film, right? And sometimes that's difficult. Sometimes when you have a film that has so many different characters, okay, I'm going to go all the way off on the deep end and talk about the Eternals for 1 second. We've got so many different characters.
Talk about other side of the spectrum.
Yeah. You're trying to distinguish them, but you're really not. He does it here with color and light. And so each little window, each little block in this apartment, each little, you know, you're peering into somebody's life, really, is subtly different in color and tone. And so the lady on the first floor, Miss Lonely Hearts, who's obviously, by herself, perhaps a widow, she's dressed in a bright green, and her apartment has some green kind of tinge to it, and her hair is red, and that stands out. And that helps you retain who she is as a character. The artist who continues to write and play the same song over and over and over again, his room is tinged a little bit blue. The newlyweds, it's all kind of white and stark because they're starting out fresh. And whether we realize that or not, those subtle little differences in how the room or the view, that view is displayed, helps us to understand that these are very different characters. We've got 7 or 8 different sets of characters that we're following very quickly in this story, and we don't have a problem distinguishing them, right? Hitchcock has distinguished them enough. The 2 women who are alone, the artist woman who's the sculptor, and Miss Lonely Hearts, they look so different, right? There's the artist woman is kind of pale and heavier set and longer hair, and Miss Lonely Hearts has the bright red hair and the bright green dress. And even the youngsters, the dancer, Miss Torso, as he calls her, the glamorous blonde hair, barely dressed, next door to the newlyweds who look different, next door to the older couple who are sleeping out on the fire escape. They're so distinguishable that we don't have a problem figuring out who they are. But we've already met so many different characters really quickly. So I think that he really succeeds in that. In some of his other films, you're only focused on 1 or 2 characters, right? Just a small handful of characters. And here the story is, this entire apartment block that Jeffries is seeing from his window, because that's all he has while he's convalescing is, this window has now become his television set. And instead of changing channels, he's just angling his view into different windows. And people did do this in the oldie days. Whether it was where I grew up, sitting out on the front stoop in Baltimore City and kind of being nosy about your neighbors, to the people on the back porches, kind of peering in and seeing what's going on in other people's houses. It was a form of entertainment. It was definitely a form of entertainment. But I think Hitchcock really quickly, very quickly established all the differences in these characters and draws you in, as a viewer.
So, Jay, on a great point for Sand, is this your first James Stewart and Grace Kelly movie as well?
I would venture to guess yes. I'd have to look to make sure they weren't in something that I just wasn't aware of. But in terms of them kind of starring, I would say yes.
Yeah, James Wonderful Life must be on now. So I don't know if we got any more Grace Kelly. Oh no, I'm not sure.
Dial-In for Murder. We do have that.
Oh, is it? Yep. Okay. There we go. So, but where? I love this. I love this fact. Where is James Stewart from? This is when it goes mad. It blows your mind.
He was born in Pennsylvania.
Bristol. He got brought up in Bristol.
He was raised in England, but he was born in Pennsylvania.
He has Greg. He has a Greg accent, like a proper Bristol. Yeah, a proper Bristol. It sounds like a pirate. And he does the American accent really well in all his movies until it came out. It was hidden, and then it came out. Yeah, he's born and kind of like not born and bred, but like brought up. Yeah, early days in Bristol. So yeah, he should sound more like a pirate.
Well, you brought up the Hollywood problem, right? You've brought up those accents that during this time in Hollywood. Because Grace Kelly was also born in Pennsylvania. She was born in Philadelphia. She's a Philly chick. And here she, grew up to be one of the most beautiful, glamorous, gracious, soon to be princess of Monaco, with this, very posh accent. And she's from Philly. She's from downtown Philly. Her accent would be like mine. But Hollywood made these accents, and I think it was part homage to the British actors, to the wonderful stage actors that Hollywood was trying to emulate. But it all turns odd. I had this on my list. This was on my list to talk about later, but accents ? Like okay, I'm going to say, well, let's get into the film, and then I'm going to talk about the
When you say
accents.
that, we don't know where there is no reference to the city. It feels like New York.
I just assume New York,
yeah,
but
it could be anywhere.
It doesn't really
Yeah,
say.
I'd say that. So anyway, I've got a poll going, and this poll, sorry,
Well,
whilst I'm
the
breaking
best
up,
one's not on there.
I
Just
know
saying.
this is the top 4 rated. Sorry, I did only the top 4 rated. So these are the top 4 rated. So they're in order of rating on IMDb. So we got Psycho, Rear Window, Vertigo, and North by Northwest. At the moment, we're tied at 25%. Every single one. So yeah, everybody get voting. This might change like that. So it's good. It's good to have that. Yeah, but yeah, there's other ones on there. I was like, I like the birds.
The birds.
Like, yeah. There's other ones. Everybody's got likes them for different reasons, and I think this is one of those movies you like it for reasons, or you like other ones for different reasons. And I can't remember who was in the chat who said they didn't like Psycho, did they? In the last film club.
Oh, was it Lacey?
That's it, Lacey. Yes. I didn't like Psycho.
Said they didn't like Psycho.
Yeah. So the setup to the movie, I like. It's very quickly done, but this is why I brought it, because it's done by the cinematography. The setup is not done by any actors. It's done in a Hitchcock style. With Jay, if you want to pursue Hitchcock, or it comes up again, he set up. He does this way of setting up movies, setting up suspense, drawing out stories by showing you what you need to see before you're going to understand that you needed to see it. If that really vague kind of thing, but he does this in that he does this pan on, pan off moment of like very quickly through the credits that you're seeing what Jeffrey is seeing. And through the credits until you get this scene, and then of course it sets up. But why is everybody out? Why has everybody got their windows open? We got people sleeping, and it's very quickly set up that it's a hot day. So yeah, so we see James Stewart there sweating away as Jeffrey, and then we see a couple of times, more than a couple of times, we see the thermometer. Things like that. So over 90 has got to be. 34
for first in the morning.
30, yeah,
for early morning, that's crazy. Yeah,
so that's going to be really in the city. It's hot. That's going to be horrid. But then from that, he's sweaty. But then we find out straight away he's in a cast. So he's broken a leg. And now this is a good cast. This is like up to there. We get a bit.
You're not moving around it. This isn't a boot.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you're doing a lot of things with that kind of cast, to be honest with you.
Yeah. But again, it's like without anybody, like nobody's talking. We've just got the intro music still kind of playing very subtly, like there's in the background, but we've got the kind of the city, I suppose, now telling its kind of story where he is. But we kind of get a smashed up camera very, very quickly. And then what he kind of does, he's get some pictures of very like elaborate. He seems to be, he goes where it's the fun is, but he puts he puts himself in danger of the to get the right camera. So it sets up straight away. Well, he's done it doing a job, and then so straight away the boredom sets in. He gets a phone call, and I'm guessing it's his publicist, like his editor, publicist,
his
or whatever.
Boss, yeah, I think
his boss is someone like that. Is going, like we'll get you out to, where is it? Oh, where's this? Oh,
did he say Pakistan or Jordan? I thought it was somewhere.
He mentioned a few places as he was talking to Lisa.
Yeah, and he's
I don't know. I don't remember exactly which.
He mentions ones and goes, but like apparently he phones up because he got the wrong week. He's not getting it the cast off tomorrow. Right. It's a week early. I'm getting it off to like things, and he just like tell like he's talking to him, but he's just, look. I like this. I took this screenshot because he's still having a look outside. He's got like the curiosity about him. It's probably because of his job. He's just like, but you can see what he's looking at because you've already seen the scene. We've seen the pan in, pan out moments, what Hitchcock loves. and we get this kind of very good setup. And whilst he's talking, we're kind of seeing very slowly what Sandy just went through. The other, I suppose, other cast members, but not cast members. Is that the best way to do it?
Yeah,
Because
because
they're
most
not.
of them never say a
No.
word, and
Yeah.
it's interesting. It's like he lives in this area with, I guess the other commentary is he's made up names for all these people, like
Yeah.
the entertainer and Miss Torso and Miss Lonely Hearts, because they're his neighbors, but he doesn't know their names, and that's a little bit sad, It's
But,
and for him, it's not that
but,
he's been a shut-in his whole life. It's just, he didn't care.
but also he does say later to Grace Kelly's character Lisa that he's never there. He's never there. He's like
always away. Yeah.
he's always away. So this is kind of like probably the longest he's been at his apartment since he's lived there. So it's and then we kind of get the good one. We see the broken leg. I love this.
We've all been there.
I've never broken anything. I've never broken anything.
Yeah, so same here, Stasis. I have sprained my ankles, actually both of them, from years of playing basketball. So I've had ankle injuries before. I've twisted my knee, but I've never actually broken anything to the point where I've needed a cast.
Consider yourselves lucky. I think I've broken everything. I've broken almost every finger, and one was in one horrible accident where my hand got stuck in a garage door.
But I was in a leg brace for 3 months and I wasn't allowed to move. So
that would hurt. Yeah,
that was bad.
Yeah, might as well be in a cast.
Yeah, exactly. With an ice machine is going. So yeah, that would be bad, but not that was.
But that feeling, and as soon as you scratch it, as soon as you figure a way to scratch it, it's just gonna start itching more because it's healing and it wants to get better. And so
yeah, it's just
not
a sweat.
good
Just like that. I know that I'm guessing. Like a 1950s cast is gotta be horrid. It's like that, but it looks like he's up to his waist, so I don't like how what he was supposed to break. But I wonder, this is where, like we've said in the past, I wonder if like Hitchcock put him in a proper cast so he would know the agony.
He did.
Yeah, and it's we're putting you in a cast for the whole movie so you understand what it feels like, and so he would get the mindset of the person. He would love that kind of what I call it now, method acting. And Hitchcock put his own actors into the method, even though they weren't method actors. Like, no, you need to feel it. I bet it was a horrid cast that he couldn't get off in the evening. He was like, no, that's you for how the duration of the shooting was. I bet he was a git, and he did.
Jay, did you see the film Hitchcock?
I did not.
How he tortured, basically. I mean, it's about him, but how it's focused on the filming of the birds, and he absolutely tortured Tippi Hedren. I mean, just terrorized her with birds to get that performance out of her. And over again, these birds would flood into this room and fly by her, and a lot of the scratching on her face is from the filming of the movie. It's not, there is makeup, etc. But yeah, he absolutely terrorized her. And that's just one example. But that I do recommend the film Hitchcock. I think it might go a little too far. It's not as bad as, I think the worst film is Mommy Dearest, because it really just goes way too far. Joan Crawford was not close to the monster that she's portrayed as being. But it's a good insight into how he prepared the actors and his demanding ways on the set, to get the performances and the film that, that we ultimately have as really amazing films. But yeah, not a nice guy. But you're right. So the word is a get, right? A get. I like that.
But yeah. So
now this lady,
Stella,
Thelma, and her name is Thelma Ritter. And immediately when she came on set, she stole the show. Her performance in her little part,
it's got the best lines though.
Effortless acting. And so I had to look her up. She played, and I knew I recognized her from, I thought she was in something else, but then I realized it was in All About Eve. She has been in many bit parts. And in some of the films where she had a bit part, her performance was so good that the producer actually created a larger part for her. So one example was in Miracle on 34th Street. David O. Sells, she had like 2 lines. She was a kid's mother in a department store, and she delivered them so well that David O. Selznick expanded her role. And she is known as the actor with the most Oscar nominations, having never won an Oscar. So she's won 6. She was nominated for 6 Oscars, all Best Supporting Actress, and she didn't win any of them. Not for this film, by the way, but for some other films. But anyway, I just wanted, like, I just thought there's a good performance there. And of course, she started out as a stage actor, not hamming it up, not overdoing it, just did her thing. And you're right, she did have some really good lines.
So yeah, so she is the insurance nurse, isn't she? So it's obvious that they're looking after Jeffries. He's a man that needs to be looked after. So they get like her. She does a couple of masseuse sessions, but then whilst they're doing that, he's still looking. He's still glaring over like what's going on. We get the newlyweds. We have other things as well. We have the couple with the invalid woman that we'll talk about later very much, and we got like the dog, the ones on the balcony, what Sandy already said, that they're trying to get cool by sleeping on the balcony. And then of course we as soon as that, we get kind of like it's again Hitchcock is like showing that very subtly, drawing you in, drawing you out, because how he switches it is Jeffrey goes to has a little nap, looks at his watch or something like that, and then that's the time jump. So it's like that. So I want to bring it up again to like where I said about the change of scenery, kind of like that, with the just like, oh, how do we make it night? It's like that. So again, it's the color isn't black, the color isn't like a night sky, but it's to really emphasize what you're supposed to be looking at, and that is the rooms, because with the yellow, kind of like a mustard color, it draws your attention away from what you're supposed to be looking at slightly. But then you're prominent with all the lighting, what Sandy said, like they really highlighted all the rooms. Like they must have like a really front light and then a very like subtle backlight to kind of give everybody's boom, because
Oh yeah, and lots of, I'm sure there's just the actors probably had to get used to.
Yeah.
The rooms they were in were probably exceedingly well lit, just to be able to, think about yourself when you're trying to look into a house, right? You're looking.
Don't do that often, to be honest. Don't do that often, to be honest.
Even if you were.
Well, got a peeping Tommy, got a peeping Tommy.
But you'd be looking. But you'd be looking, even if it's a little dark. Or how about this? If you're inside and you don't want someone looking inside, you turn your light off, right? But to get that kind of view in, then you would most certainly, have to have a lot of light going on to do that. And I wanted to share something really quickly. I'm so glad you brought up the picture of the sky. So I want to share. And you mentioned, that it's nighttime, but it's not completely dark. Well, in the city, if you grew up in a city, sometimes at night, it doesn't get dark because of all the street lights, and you have that what do you call it, light pollution.
Yeah.
But also sometimes you get the most amazing sunsets. And I want to pay a little homage to my granddad.
Ooh, very nice.
For this photo, which he called End of the World. It was just a sunset in our neighborhood. But that sky, right? It was rare, 2 or 3 times a year you'd get that kind of sunset, but always on the hottest day of the year, right? It was just absolute misery. And so that's what he's depicting right there. I mean, this is just and then you've got, you got to open the windows. There's no air conditioning. You got to do what you got to do just to be able to try to get a little bit of sleep. And everybody's doors and windows and shades and screens are open. In the short story, I did just want to the short story is 13 pages long. You can read it in a half an hour. And it's a very concise story that is all most of the action is with Jeffries. There is no girl in the short story, so there's no Lisa character. There's no insurance therapist. There is a police detective that he brings in and it's a personal friend of his, because he's trying to share what he thinks he's seen. But there are no other characters in his apartment, which, as we'll see a little bit later, it makes for a very different kind of story for the reader versus the viewer. I'll stop there because I don't want to spoil anything until we get to that point. But at this point in the short story, we've gone through descriptions of each window and who we see in each window, and then a description of Jeffries. And that's like 2 pages in the short story. And I will say, incredibly well done, to the point of in just these very few pages, the writer, Cornell Woolrich, has described exactly what Hitchcock has put on the screen here. So I think it's pretty amazing. And like I said, it's a very short read. If anyone can pick it up, It Must Be Murder. You can find it online. It's just out there. You don't have to purchase a book. You can just read it online, and it's just a few pages, and it takes about a half an hour.
Check it out. So yeah, I must say, like, that kind of thing, because in this, like, probably for the first 30 minutes, probably it's all Hitchcock setup.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's not much going on. It's all Jeffrey kind of getting that, but he does this a lot. He does, like, there's a lot of movies where people forget about that kind of setup that he does to play things. Like, it's like it's just another movie, Psycho. Everybody forgets the beginning bit and just remembers Bates Motel. But yeah, this is kind of where he's known for, is that slow setup, and then we have what we're actually looking at. So we get that. But in this movie, we started to get introduced into, like, we got Stella, we introduced to Jeffrey's character, and we get I'm gonna have to say it, the beautiful Grace Kelly. She comes in very, like, I'm guessing, like, she doesn't say what she does, but I'm guessing she's supposed to be on the stage somewhere. I'm guessing
I assumed she was like a fashionista of some sort.
That's what I thought.
Okay.
I wasn't sure if it was for a magazine. I was getting the idea that she was like a head kind of fashion columnist on a magazine, because I think at one point she mentions a column.
Maybe.
So, and she's just all about all her meetings and conversations she's telling Jeffrey about that she's all had to do with fashion in some way or another. So I got the idea that she was, fashion columnist, fashion magazine editor. Maybe that's kind of how they got in the same circle, given that he's a photographer for magazines. That was my assumption. But I would like to point out, one of my biggest issues with this entire movie was the way he says Lisa, because he says it as like Lisa, as if there's an E instead of an I, and it drove me nuts the entire movie. So now finding out that he was doing an American accent, it kind of all is starting to make sense to me, because the way he says Lisa was just, it irritated the hell out of me. Yeah. It was never Lisa.
But still, it's an American who grew up in Britain who's doing a British American accent. I can't stand the accent. My pet peeve is the accents in this film. But
I didn't love his, and I just am not a huge fan of this era Hollywood actress accent that they kind of made them all do. Like you said, Sandy, that kind of almost like an American posh type of thing. It just sounds very stage, and I feel like it fits stage well, and it doesn't fit film well. Honestly, little issues for me. They didn't ruin the movie or anything for me, but if I had to say, like, those are two things that I didn't love, it was his accent and hers as well.
But that was from the talkies up to probably like the 60s. America was still doing it. And
like these learned accents that they used to do, like the higher class learned accent. There was the transatlantic accent. That was one.
Yeah,
that was it. Yeah,
kind of.
It was. It's only till you get I suppose French Connection is quite a good one, when they actually started being a bit more realism. In the 70s, they really went hard on some of like the accents, like I have to say what warriors and stuff like that, and like where they just went, no, that's their accent, that's the city we're in, and we're gonna go hard, like Rocky, you know, like classic ones like
Yeah,
that, where
that's a
they
little
just
over the
yeah,
Right.
but they're still portraying, you know, like the area. They're still, you know, there's
Yeah.
that, and you got like the gangster movies where, you know, Italian mob, you're gonna go for the Italian mob, but like this is just, it's that, yeah, boom, that's where it is. We need to make sure everybody understands it's a neutral accent. It's a, it's just something they did. I don't know why. Like nobody could ever have their, like, even you go Wizard of Oz, like that. I'm sure
You're
that's
right.
not
Judy Garland
Yeah,
even.
that's a good point. Yeah, it's just that like I always liken it to like an American version of the posh British accent. Like they're like that higher class. I want to establish the fact that I'm classically trained. I'm a higher kind of class in terms of, you know, economic class and all that. It's just always struck me as that's what it comes from. It's an attempt to kind of be an American version of the posh British accent. And I don't know. I think it works on stage. I think it comes off a little weird on film sometimes. But in to that point, I don't have an issue with Judy Garland's version of it in The Wizard of Oz. So maybe it's a hit or miss thing for me. I don't know. I'd have to hear some more of it, I guess.
You could have like
Despite the
Vinnie
fact
Jones
that she
too.
grew up on a farm.
Yeah,
Right.
In Kansas, a farm in Kansas.
So we get further on, and then again, we're just
this
kind
is
of
just
into
sad.
this Miss Art, yeah. Oh, this is a sad scene, isn't it? It's a bit like
her
like
whole,
yeah.
She is an unbelievable amount of emotion in this story in the small segments that she has. You just feel so bad for this poor woman every time you peer through her window. It's just something worse. You just feel terrible for her.
But it's great acting. This is
it is because it's no voice, nothing. It's just, I mean, you get a little bit when the guy comes in and she interacts with him, but again, that's more the physical acting than really is the little bit of voice that you hear.
Yeah, because you got to think about like everybody's away for her, so she's got her probably somebody just off the action. Just really, this is like they're looking at you now because that camera is way away. Everybody's looking at Jeffrey, you know,
it's all through his perspective.
Yeah, so it's everybody's away. So there's got to be like one or two crew members just getting her the mark, and then she's got to do it. So yeah, it'd be great. I like this is where like with I think more the style of Hitchcock is how many times no again like just them on two, like he was a perfectionist. So like I wonder how many, if this was like, that's like it looks like great acting, or was it like this is your 50th time, do it right now. I'm gonna like
it could have been
something interesting I found about this character, which we'll get, I'll go more into it later when we get to this part, but I've actually found more suspense in what happens with her later than the actual, you know, story and point of story that they're going for with the movie. And it's not to say that I didn't enjoy that. I just found that the scene with her, that I'm sure you both know, and anybody who's watched the movie knows what I'm talking about, kind of one of her last scenes before, you know, things get a little better in her world. The suspense of like, oh my God, are they going to be able to, you know, can something stop what's about to happen for her in time? Was actually like, I felt it building much more than I did for the actual point of the story, which I just thought was really fascinating with the way he wrote her. And again, the way she acted it out.
In the short story, it's a widow who has a young child and a younger woman. So you're kind of thinking maybe someone who died in the war. And because this was, you know, after World War II. And so it's a widow with a young child, and what he sees is her putting the child to bed every night and kissing the child on the head. Then she goes into her bedroom and she paints her face and puts on slinky clothes, and so she's become a woman of the evening to support her child. And then she comes home and cries every night. And so again,
more sad,
just as emotional, right? It's just, that's the
this
emotional hit character. Yeah. And they chose to do it differently here. Which I think was probably easier for, you know, for this time to see in a film. But just again, just in 13 short pages, this character's story was different, but so well told from beginning to the end, from the beginning of the story to the end of the story. Well, you know what happens with all the characters.
Right. And to your point about how quickly and efficiently he sets up these characters, that's one thing that stuck out and that I loved about this movie, was that it really is, it's glimpses, it's simple glimpses of who these people are the way you would see if you were only be able to see them through a window, but it's enough to establish what you need to know for the story and the effectiveness of emotions being conveyed through them. It's again really efficiently done, but also like artistically creative, given the idea of like, okay, I have to set up all these characters, but we're not going to do it in a way like Eternals, like you mentioned, for example, where every character has to have a super backstory and try to tell a little bit about themselves because this whole team and everybody's got to know all these characters, blah, blah, blah. No, this is simple. All you need to know about all these different characters is the small glimpse that Jeffrey sees through viewing them through their window. So the kind of artistic metaphor there, I think, was cleverly done. And then just the execution of it, I think, was great.
Well, it's even like with the musician who's like playing, like he's trying to perfect the same song over and over again. You get a payoff for him at the end, but literally you just see him just playing over, having a cigarette, playing, and then he gets like he's one scene, he goes out, doesn't he? Gets very drunk, comes back, gets annoyed, throws his
throws all the papers.
But you kind of get that. It's like that's
you're
like
getting
a musician. Yeah,
you're getting everything that you need to get from these characters in this small window-sized glimpse. I thought that was very brilliantly done.
Yeah, it's good, especially where like you probably don't like realize it until probably the second or third time. Is the concentrations like what Jeffrey's seeing is like there, but the actual story is happening in front of you. The actual main building is directly opposite him, near enough. So you get that. And of course, through the movie, when we get that again, it's just Jeffrey's point of view. And he sees something weird. You know, Al, does he have a name for him at the start? I don't know, what's his name?
The salesman.
Is it salesman, is it? Yeah.
Yes.
So he's leaves.
Lars.
Right. So before we see this, we see a little bit of just kind of, again, the glimpse of his marriage. We're not seeing a ton of it, but we're seeing just enough to get you to jump to the same conclusions that Jeffrey's jumping to, which is that his wife seems to be pretty hot on him. It seems that she's bedridden for whatever reason, health, whatever it may seem. And it feels like every time he goes into that room or has to go into that room, there's this kind of sigh of deflation of just like a defeated man whose wife is potentially a little bit hot on him. Maybe the situation with her health is hot on him, plus the way she treats him and all that. And she's got a little bit of a bossy body language to her. Like he brings in all this food on a breakfast in bed type of tray. And she's a little looks a little off put by it, or maybe even a little picky. Like, is this right? Did you do this right? Has a bite of it, puts it to the side, all these things. And she seems like, she might be belittling him in the process, just judging by the way he acts. So again, as her body language is a little bit bossy and maybe seeming negative, his is one of just a deflated, kind of beaten down person.
Yeah. It's like everybody's got their little own traits, haven't they? That's why I love it. It's like, well, how would they set up? It just looks like it. Yeah, you get it. It looks like a marriage that's not heartfelt, let's say that, and especially it's just Valentine's. Just like it seems like they've got problems. She's either playing up being in bed, or she's seriously ill, and he doesn't give her the full attention or something like that. But look, that is why I like every little scene, even with the artist. She's got her little bits, like when the guy comes over, like, oh, what is this today? Just yeah, like
it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's like everybody's got their little traits, little like things going on, and it's just like that. So at the moment, until this kind of scene, it just looks like a normal neighborhood. It's what you would probably get in a neighborhood. Everybody's doing their own things. Everybody's a different character to what you see. But of course, Jeffrey's watching it from his point of view, and it's Hitchcock is like things like, and especially when he misses stuff because he's sitting in his wheelchair, he's going to sleep, having a little nap, waking up, and he's still watching the world. He's being his own little spy. But like this, it's like a scene is quite clever because it's literally. You don't see him, then you see him appear. This little narrow. Oh, can't say it. Narrow. No, my God, what am I trying to say?
Narrow.
Narrow. Oh my God.
And you guys try
What
to say
happened?
you
I
invented
know.
the language.
Damn it. Oh my God. That was terrible. Narrow. Oh my God, I can't say it. Oh my God. Okay, so I can't say it. I'm going to move on.
Just say
Alleyway.
skinny. We'll go with that.
Very short,
But
spacious
just
alleyway.
before that scene, was there another picture you wanted to share? Did you catch something?
Oh, I couldn't get it. I couldn't get it when he comes out.
Nope.
No. Oh, what am I
So
missing?
just before this scene, when they glance over back to the musician.
Mhm.
So there's another trademark of Alfred Hitchcock films. He places himself in every
Oh
one of his
yes.
films.
Yeah.
Did you get that one? Because
Oh no, I didn't get it. Where was he?
okay. So he was the what do you call it? He was the servant of
Oh, with the dinner?
the
Oh, was that
musician.
him?
No, the
Oh my God,
musician.
sorry.
So hang on, I've just shared the screen.
Oh, but when he
He's
when he
Oh,
comes in.
winding the
Oh,
yes.
clock.
I didn't even catch that.
Okay, yes. He's
So
a bit more
he's
prominent
winding the
normally.
clock. That's Alfred Hitchcock right
Mm.
there. And okay, truth be told, I didn't find it either. I had to look it
Mm.
up and see where is Alfred Hitchcock in this film. And I was assuming he was just going to be one of the people at the party in Miss Torso's room or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, it was this when he was turning the clock. I guess, he was a helper, servant, whatever, for the entertainer. And not only, and in this picture, I think you can see it quite well. You can also see Hitchcock also loved to catch reflections. And he was obviously very precise about not catching the camera in a reflection, but he caught his own face in the reflection there in the screen. So there he is, Alfred Hitchcock's
Ah,
personal appearance
completely,
in this film.
completely missed that. Yeah, you have to, watch out for that. But
And
yeah,
I'll tell you what, the hardest one to find him in is Dial M for Murder. Don't look it up. Don't look it up, but it's the hardest one to find him in. We'll
and
talk
he's
about
not
it
the
when we get to
murderer.
Dial M for Murder. No, he's not the murderer. No.
So we get that, and of course this part we get some back and forth. Then Jeffrey falls asleep, and then we get a very, very quick image of a woman and Lars. Lars is it? Yeah, Lars moves, leaving the house. So we see it. Jeffrey doesn't see it because he's having a little nap. But of course, then we get back. He wakes up again. Stella's there, and of course, Lars is having a kind of just glaring, and he asks for his binoculars. She goes for the binoculars, but then he realizes the binoculars aren't good enough. I need to see what's going on because his suspicions are the suspicions of when he was awake and what he's seen kind of in the morning now. And of course, he's probably looked out probably like what that cast has been on a good 6 months probably. He's probably seen the wife in the bed as well as what he's seen, like probably a few movements. But so she not being up in there in the room is more suspicion for him, but you get that because of his broken leg. So he's been there for a while, and she's
watched
been
the
there for a while.
routine. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's watched it again in the short story. One of the things it does clearly remark on is the commonness and the sameness of the routine of each person in each one of those apartments. And with respect to that couple, he would come in at a certain time, he would give her breakfast or lunch or dinner. Sometimes she would get up and come into the other room, but and he was just so used to that routine. But now the routine's been broken, and he's not seeing Mr. Thorvald, I think, go into the room. He hasn't seen her come out. So he's noticing that routine has changed. And of course, he's suspicious. And this is where in the short story, you really get commentary on the fact that he's not really interacting with a lot of people. So again, there's no girl in the short story. There's no Lisa. And so it gives his mind a time to wander. And he calls it in the short story, it's narrated by Jeffries, who calls it his delayed reaction brain, where he's trying to think of something and he can't figure it out, and then a short time later it all clicks, and he calls it that, his delayed reaction. And he actually goes through his thinking process and tells you in words what his thinking process is. In some cases, for some of these little apartments, he's made up stories completely because he doesn't know the people. That's why he makes up names, so he can make up stories. But here, he's deducing because some things have changed. Of course, his mind jumps to the wrong conclusion. Now, this is where I think the short story does a better job than the film. Because in the short story, you don't have the girl. You're just in Jeffrey's brain. In the short story, you do think he's making it up. You think he hasn't seen what he thinks he's seen. In the short story, you think there's a really good chance that it's not murder, that everything's fine. It's just, Jeffries, you're just filling things in your brain. But because of Lisa confirming his suspicions a little later, and even Stella going along with it, it's a different film. And I think I kind of marked the film down a little bit because I think the short story did a better job. In fact, the only other person that's involved in the short story is the police detective. And he squarely tells Jeffrey, you're just seeing things, or maybe it's what you're not seeing, which is what the police detective in this story eventually will do. But even at this early stage in the film and in the short story, you're already questioning, well, he couldn't have seen what he thought he's seen. And then later, when you get to all these parodies, whether it's, I Love Lucy or The Simpsons or Frasier or a whole host of other shows, in every case, in those parodies, it always turned out to be, it wasn't what you thought it was. It did have a reasonable explanation. But here, too soon you get the confirmation from Lisa and from Stella that they're kind of interested, they're buying in, they're kind of busybodies. And they've put a little too many of the pieces together too early. I think the film missed an opportunity there. But I see that Hitchcock wanted to tell a different story. And, well, they had to get a pretty girl in the film.
That's
fair enough.
Yeah. Well, Grace Kelly's a good pick. I'm guessing
if
she's available. Yeah, it's going to be available.
If you're going to use a pretty girl, Grace Kelly's a good idea. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't mind a little sad because even when they come in, what we kind of miss, when she first comes in, they're both in love with each other. But he kind of gives the card, I suppose, is like, we can't be together. And then she gets pissed off, because I can't go with you, you can't stay here, such and such. So their work is what drives them in life. But even to that point, when she comes the second time, she's already said, I can't see you for a while. Until tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's like, okay.
I did actually really appreciate the Stella character. Yeah. One, I thought she was a great actress. I really liked her acting in this. But two, I loved how she just pushed back on all his bullshit about, I can't marry her because this and that. She's like, oh yeah, she must be too perfect. All these things because once you do get to meet her, you're like, dude, are you nuts? You put a ring on that.
What is wrong with you? So he's pulling out the big guns here. He's getting that telephoto lens.
God, I want to think how much that would have cost in the 50s.
My dad has a lens even bigger than that one, and he fell. And I know what the replacement cost was. He fell, he broke. I was like, oh my God. And yeah, it's bigger than him. Those lenses are outrageously expensive.
I think the one I've got on my camera now is £800.
Oh, yeah. I think the one we just replaced for my dad was like $2,600. So that would be £3,200.
This one's but it's only like that.
Yeah.
So it's not a telescopic lens. It's a wide angle lens, but 24, but it's still So what that is then.
He's a pro. He's a professional.
He's a pro. Yeah, but I like that because it shows anybody kind of into video cameras or whatever. You're like, oh, that's expensive. That's expensive. And he just shows like that, and he's got multiple ones out there, but he needs the proper settings. So he gets it, and now he's using, I don't know what the camera is. I must say, yeah. I must say I couldn't actually work out what make that camera was. I guess it's out there. Because I would have thought back in the days, would have, like, I know Leica was big, expensive back in the 50s, but like I'm not sure if that was
Polaroid's the only camera brand I even know.
Kodak.
Kodak, or is that just film, or is that cameras too?
No, Kodak with cameras too. That's a whole story on the rise and fall of Kodak.
So yeah, we get him. So he's now got this telescopic lens, so he can get in closer. And what does he see? Dun dun dun.
Knives. Oh my gosh, knives.
And not just knives. Literally like that, some of them. So like he's folding away some knives. Why? Ooh, it's now getting a bit suspicious. So so now he does that, and of course then we get in back to the story. We get the neighborhood jeering up again, and I like that because then it shows you ooh, what's going on then, and then we just have back to the daily life. We have a dog in a basket because the couple can't be bothered to.
It's a puppy Vader.
Do they never leave?
Elevator.
Do they?
I don't know.
Do they never leave their apartment? I couldn't figure that out. Is that like part of their thing?
When you live on the 5th or 6th floor, yeah, you're not, unless you have to. When you're in these tenements, you're not going to leave if you're up that high, and you don't have to. I'm sure, there are times maybe they did because they didn't seem invalid themselves, but if you're just going to let the dog out, for a walk, and the dog knows that, you're just going to use that. It's the same thing as like if you see like in Baltimore or New York, I'm sure Boston too, some houses still have a bracket. At some of the really tall, like 4- and 5-story row houses still have a bracket at the top where there was a pulley to haul up whatever, because you're not going to take them up the stairs, whether it's furniture, clothes, laundry, you're just going to have a pulley.
Interesting.
Or a dog, or a puppy.
James Stewart, not Jimmy Stewart.
It's
it's a 45 to 46 when they're filming. So Grace Kelly's got to be in her late 20s, probably 30s, maybe in this. So I
would think, because it makes it seem like the Miss Torso's probably like in the 21 to 23, 24 range. So Grace is probably a bit older.
Yeah. So but then James Stewart, God, Jimmy Stewart.
Born in Pennsylvania.
It's James, isn't it? James on the poster
it's
too.
James.
James.
Yes, it's James. It's not Jimmy. It's James. James Stewart.
Yeah, see, James.
Yeah,
good old Jimmy.
I hate that. I hate it.
Oh well, I guess you would know.
Yeah, I hate it. If I'm James, I'm not Jimmy. Like
you're James.
Exactly. Yeah, but I get but I hate it because I have people going like, "There you go, Jim, Jimmy, Jim Bob." I'm like, no. Like
Jimbo.
if I go like I'm like, no, it's James.
Jimbo. Oh, you are now Jimbo, James.
All right,
you're
Jimbo. Here first, chat. He likes to be called Jimbo.
Jimbo Geek. Oh my god, that's
Jimbo Geek. All right, I like it.
Sounds like a mad workout channel.
If I ever get to Georgia or something like that, I'm setting up a Jimbo Geek.
That's brilliant.
Is your middle name John?
No.
Okay, you're all right then.
It's Daniel.
You'd be Jim or John. Okay.
Daniel. Yeah.
Jimmy Dan.
JD. So
JD.
He's JD. Yeah.
JD
JD Vance. JD.
There you go, JD Geek.
Yeah,
you're good.
JD Vance.
You can do this all day.
Right. Some names have so many derivations. It's great.
Terrible. What is JD's Vance's name? What is his name?
Shoot, I was just looking at that.
I was talking to Dan, and then somebody came.
James David.
I knew it was David. I thought it was John David because I was just watching the trailer for Hillbilly Elegy, that movie based on his life, and they said it, and it's went in one ear out the other.
Only because somebody in Dan Mr. Porkchop's TikTok said he looked like JD Vance. And I was like, and they were like taking the mickey.
Oh man,
they were like, when you say it, and I said it the other day, I went, oh my god! And he said, I didn't realize JD Vance. has a British accent, and then when they said it, I was like, I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. It's like that. He
Yeah.
actually does.
I
He
can
actually
kind of
does. You're
see
like,
it a bit.
"Oh,
Like,
yes, it's
yeah,
very
now that you
bizarre."
say it. If
Yeah.
they were side by side, probably not. But when you're kind of thinking each one on their own, yeah, I can kind of see it.
And it was when JD was in Europe taking absolutely
Right.
nailing the Brits and the Europeans to the wall. Yeah, it was quite. I did have a little giggle to myself, and he doesn't get it. I'm sure he doesn't.
I'm gonna have to say that on his next stream on Monday.
Everybody say it because he's like, who, like just the vice
that's too
president.
funny.
Oh, it did make me giggle. Anyway, back to this. So, well, of course, we get again. Jeffries is trying to vaguely explain what his suspicions are to Lisa or Lisa, whilst still kind of eyeing out, and then we get Lars with a rope. Again, the suspicions, man. But who gets to see it this time? It's Lisa, and she's like, "Oh." A bit shocked. Hold it. Can you explain to me everything is happened? Because she sees this. It's a bit weird.
Now it's clicked.
Right.
Yeah.
And because she had been denying it, you know, similar to how we'll see Detective Doyle do it. She was just, you know, playing it down like, oh, you know, you're losing it. You're just sitting here watching people too much. Like, I even love the little point she makes about the newlywed who have their blinds down from the moment we see them until I think a couple of the times where he's having a cigarette or something out the window. Where she makes the point of, you know, it's you know just as much about what's going on behind, you know, through that window as you do behind this one. Or maybe it's something along the lines of like you have just as much reason to suspect something foul happening behind that window where you can't see versus the one who's got the window wide open where you could see. I'm like, yeah, that's a good point. It's kind of part of the way that I think they play with the back and forth of getting the audience to believe Jeffries and then believe that Jeffries is just kind of making it up in his mind. That constant back and forth, we're like, we're going to give you this to kind of prove what he's thinking, but then we're going to give you this portion of dialogue to make you realize, no, he's probably just crazy. But even those points, not crazy or so much as just imagining it. But then even those points where you're like, oh yeah, no, it's not really happening. You know, the detective's kind of foiled some of his his thoughts, or maybe she has in this scene. Immediately they bring it right back to, well, but maybe it is true because of this. So I really like the back and forth with that.
So the suspicions carry on.
Now there's a big crate.
A big trunk. I suppose you'd call it a trunk, would you?
A trunk.
Like trunk, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, a big trunk. Why? Because now they believe somebody's in the trunk.
And he did see him like putting all her clothes out too.
Yeah.
Like folding clothes. I don't know. Was that in the film or in the short story? Because in the short story, it made a really big deal about him seeing.
I think we
no,
do.
We don't. We just see.
No, I think it's his clothes.
I think, the handbag, isn't it?
The handbag is later.
He's empty.
Okay.
It's some of his like dress shirts or something that I think we see him go through his father's clothes.
Short story, you see him folding her clothes, and you don't know whether he's putting her clothes away or whether he's taking her clothes out of the. So you you don't know. Again, the short story does a better job of you're not sure. You're not.
Well,
sure.
I like it, like when even in the movie, because when you see the bit that Jeffrey doesn't see of a woman leaving the building, you could understand, well, is she being rushed to hospital? Is he gathering her things? Because what he does, except for some, like the knives and the rope, but everything else, he kind of like, okay, you're gathering her things, you know, like, oh, maybe she wanted like that. He's like doing long distance calls and all that, like the stuff he does. Well, maybe she's like been put into a hospice, maybe a home, or maybe she's been in a hospital for like she's been rushed in. That's why I did it, and that's why he had to make journeys back and forth. Like your mind, if you think about that, because how ill she's as perceived to be in the movie, being bedridden, well, that could be truthful. It could be like that. That's it. But that could be also the, you know, the way they get out of it. You know, it's it's a little clever. It like it's another Hitchcock little mind trick. Is like before you kind of first time you watch it, and that's the thing. Is like Jay knows because this is the first time.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why I feel like it was so impressive to me, that kind of playing with the audience's mind, being able to watch this fresh for the very first time. He absolutely did. That I think I swayed back and forth with the, did it happen, didn't happen, almost every time Hitchcock seemingly intended for the audience to sway back and forth with it.
Yeah. So again, we get Jeffrey's now on the phone to his a friend who happens to be a detective. I'm sure he's just a detective.
Yeah, he was a detective, not a private eye or anything, but he was definitely a detective.
Yeah. And what I don't get, like, you can't really see on this, is like I do like the Stella in this kind of thing, just like, oh, you an idiot, kind of like again, just like, oh, this is you being. I think she even calls him, like we did Sandy, sorry, peeping Tom, and she calls him like your over intelligence is what is playing your mind tricks onto you. And I like when she was saying that, I remember a bit. So I'm going to go back to my military days, and it's probably a lot of people who don't know this, but if you're ever on guard duty and it's nighttime and there's nothing in front of you, and there is nothing. There is literally, it's dead. Your brain starts to play tricks because then you start to see things. And it's actually a psychological fact that because there's nothing there, then your brain goes, oh, like, was that a shadow? Was that? Was that? And I like that. It kind of like, oh, that is actually a proper psychological, like actual I suppose a bit like thing that actually happens, not the greatest but thing, but it actually does. Your brain, when you're looking at things for too long, your brain starts to play tricks with yourself, even though you're sensible, what is right and what is wrong and what is real and what is not. But this could have been Jeffrey, and I like that because that's his world, and that's been his world for 6 months or whatever.
So interesting kind of other version of your brain doing that, which is a total side story, but I try to mention it every time I think of it because it is so cool. I don't know if you guys have ever got the chance to use a virtual reality helmet, any of the VR headsets or things like that. But
no, I'm afraid to.
When you put those things on, your brain immediately, like within about 2-3 minutes of having it on, you totally forget the world that you're actually standing in, and your brain starts to adopt that world that you're in. It is honestly phenomenal the way the brain just kind of like can adapt to what you're seeing and kind of have that psychological effect. So I could 100% see that being the case. A totally different version of it than that, but your brain, I think, can 100%, or not can, it 100% does kind of just assume what you're seeing is actual, even if it's not,
and fills in the gaps.
Like, it fills in the reality.
Exactly. It's very, very strange how it happens. Why you'll see clips of people with those headsets on diving straight into their TVs or walking into walls because damn well you're in your living room, but the second you put it on and you think you're in Gotham or something, you totally forget. I mean, it's a bizarre thing.
I'm Batman.
Yeah, it's interesting. If you ever get the chance to try one, I highly recommend it. It is a cool piece of technology.
I've not tried any in the new
It'll make you a little motion sickness, though.
I remember when they first came out in the 90s, and they were terrible.
Oh, no, those are trash. I even had a few tries with those when I was younger. I think I had one from Toys R Us that was absolute trash.
Oh, this was actually like
the new ones. Oh, okay.
This was like a booth one.
Like
a booth. No, this was a booth one.
No, even the consumer, like your MetaQuest, your whatever now, they are. I have a MetaQuest myself. I'm just like a tech geek. I think tech is so cool, and it is honestly, it's a trip, man. If you ever get the chance to try a new one, I recommend it just because it's interesting to see how quickly your brain adapts and just thinks you're in whatever world that the visuals in front of you are telling you that you're in.
Wait for the next 10 years.
Ooh. Yeah, you'll be Ready Player One soon enough.
It will be, isn't it? Yeah, they will.
Well, they've been working on a lot of those. Like, it's not the omnidirectional treadmills, but those frictionless standing pads you can be on, so that you can now run in place while you have those headsets on.
They've been in development since like the early 2000s, but they couldn't get the money down.
Right, the technology to get it to a consumer level.
Yeah,
but
so they're going to get there. Yeah, it's going to get there.
With the headsets already being there.
I always think it's like with my kid, it's like, what is his gaming going to be like?
Right. So that's the thing. I had this conversation with somebody recently where I'm like, dude, when I was a kid, we had little Game Boys and and we just got the home consoles really starting to take off. I mean, obviously there was the NES and all that before my time, but for me it was like
Keep rubbing it in,
first.
Jay. Keep
Sorry,
rubbing it in.
sorry.
64.
my first one, my first real
2600 right here, 2600.
And
If you know, yeah.
that was the start of home consoles, but you know, for my generation, it was like the PS1 and the Nintendo 64 that really started to make these huge advancements, or even just your 16-bit consoles, your Super Nintendos, your Sega Genesis, all that.
16-bit.
So to see, to jump from those to the Polygon days of N64 and PlayStation 1 and Xbox, so on and so forth. And the Game Boys, like I remember just playing like Pokemon games on a Game Boy, this little 2D game that's just, you know, and now these kids,
Had a little
and now these
Coleco
kids
handheld.
have, you know, virtual reality headsets to put them in this whole. I'm like, to think the jump from when I was a kid to what kids have now has been that much. I can only imagine 20 years from now what kids will be playing for video games.
No, but
It's crazy to think.
Sorry,
I gotta think.
I do hope it's fun.
I can understand Jay now as a granddad. Every other granddad since our time was like, during the war, except for like during the 16-bit community.
Yeah, exactly. During the video game boom in 2001.
Oh, I remember when Batman Gotham was different. You could just play it on your TV.
I remember when it was 2D, and now I've seen it jump to where you can be Batman standing in Gotham. And it's a trip, man. It's a trip.
Well,
Kids have some crazy technology available.
That's why I say, wait. I still want it to be when you can order Pizza Hut and it comes in a little dish and you put it on the machine and then you get a full pizza. Yeah. Back to the Future 2.
I've been wanting that ever since. Yeah, they're literally. Yep.
Everything in Back to the Future 2, everybody's like, I want one. Hoverboards. Come on.
No hoverboards though. They're a little dangerous.
That'd be great though.
It would be cool. It would be cool.
Oh, I want a hoverboard. I would still. I would see if they did that. That's how I would break my leg. I would get one now. I'm not in my 40s. I'm gonna get one, and I'm gonna break my leg, and I would be like, I did it. I did it. Ow! Somebody called 999.
Just make sure you're live streaming when it happens.
Yeah. Oh my god. I think I would break my leg if I tried just a skateboard now. I've probably not been a skateboard since I was in my 20s. Oh my god. Anyway, back to the Rear Window. Dun dun dun. So
we've been getting into old people talk like every stream for the last few streams. I just want to let you all know.
Just can't help it.
Back in my day.
So yeah, Lars is now, he has got some a postal service delivery men, whatever they are, back in the 50s. I'm not sure.
Movers.
UPS.
They're just the movers.
Movers.
Right,
yeah. So he gets out what is more suspicious, and then of course, his friend turns up. Just dismisses him. He's a detective friend. He's like, I think you're reading into it. Nothing's really going on, and he kind of just like no, you've been here too long. You kind of need to get out of the room. And then of course we get again, Lars is now going through the handbag, emptying things out, and then of course the world is still going on with everybody else. We've got Lonely Hearts. She's now getting ready.
Yeah, I feel bad for her.
Yeah. So she's having a bit of Dutch courage as well. So maybe that's a bit of ploy, maybe to the book, maybe.
Well, this is a great picture as well, because one thing I noticed with this movie, and it kind of goes back to the idea of how we talked a little while ago about films that were black and white versus films that were actually in color. And not that this film was, I don't believe at least, translated from black and white to color.
No.
I believe it was always done in Technicolor.
Filmed in color.
Right. But this is such
Technicolor.
It is such a brilliant. Yeah, I think that's what they used to call it.
I know it's on the poster.
Yeah, right.
Sure
I thought I saw. Yeah,
Technicolor. Yeah.
The colors look so brilliant in this, and not even just like brilliant in terms of like brightness, like the blue of the eyes, the green of the dress, the red of the hair, the red of the lipstick. You see it a lot with Lisa, how her eyes are just so blue, and it pops up against her complexion and the red of the lipstick. I was fascinated by how good even the detective and Jeff as well, I believe, both had blue eyes that just popped on the screen. So just another great use of, at a time when this could have easily been done in black and white and maybe would have cost less to do in black and white, they decided to do it in color, and for good reason, because it really just adds a nice style to everything you see.
I guess it was also a cinema pull. It's in Technicolor because they all did it, didn't they? Like you have these epic movies that are like at the end and shot in Technicolor or Panavision or something like
got you into the cinemas for sure.
And if that got you in for this one, you were treated well with it, because it just, like, look at that green. It's just so damn green. It looks brilliant.
So we get that, and of course, he's still spying away. He's having little moments, and then of course, Lisa turns up again, a glamorous. Every time she comes in,
the suit I want. This is the one I want, because I wear suits. Really? I don't wear dresses. I wear suits. I like
it.
This
Is
suit.
nice. It's very nice. It gives me like a Jackie O type of vibe, like a Jackie Kennedy type of look.
I suppose.
Very classy. Very. I like the little mesh.
It's very regal as well, isn't it? So it's very regal. It's like
girls,
you could
Yeah. And
so
that was
every time they say like she's there to just give that glamour to this movie, like that is really it. She just elevates this movie, like we've said, like how beautiful Grace Kelly is. But she's even how she she comes in like, and some of like other movies like away from Hitchcock, she comes in, she just owns it just because of her presence and like that. And it's like that. So and I don't like. I always say like this time, like the justice of how beautiful these leading ladies were. What if you get Elizabeth Taylor or whatever, weren't portrayed so much. When people saw him in real life, they were like, "Oh, okay, like
seriously,
you're seriously, you're beautiful." And I think that's like that. What they tried like with Grace Kelly here, they just like every time it's like. Even when she like lays down, sits down, she gives that kind of just that like very dramatic, and maybe that's like I didn't see it until Jay said like that fashion moment. It's like she sits very like
it's almost like the camera.
You're taking my picture. Yes,
exactly.
I've got you. You need this angle. You need that angle, and she's like that. But if you look at her like. Again, how Hitchcock does it with the like, not as great in this one, but with the other lighting, she has a very soft lighting on her, whereas everybody else has got very bright lighting, very like even James Stewart, Jeffries. There's very and when he comes out the shadow from the peeping Tom moment, he's got hard light, but she has soft light, and I think that's what Hitchcock does throughout, even when he's done black and white. He knows how to control that lighting. It's something like probably Spielberg is known for very much for, especially like with Schindler's List and stuff like that. He's very known for like that kind of how to get that lighting effect to give that personality to like the characters. And I think he like Hitchcock does it really well here with you have the tones of what the cast, I suppose, like the rooms are lit like, and the cast members are dressed like. They've all got that. Say with Miss Lonely Heart, she's very like her colors are bright, even though she's lonely. Even like with the one where she's giving a kind of a romantic dinner to herself, like if it's and it's that, and everybody else is like toned a certain way. And I think Hitchcock it does it very, very, very well. So, but like with Technicolor, this is great. But we get on, and she's still there, and of course, they bring back now the detective, but next door is a little party going on at the musician's house. He's playing the song. We don't know why. They're just having a little party. They're having a little get together. We find out probably the reasons why later on. Spoilers not much, but he's got it pressed, I suppose, like that. So he's so like that, and of course they're now having I'm gonna guess for brandy. They're brandy glasses, so like that. And
so of course, I must say, I love Hollywood because. Although James Stewart, Jeffries here, is obviously a successful photographer, but he's living in just a step or two up from a tenement, right? When you have your little bar and you're lucky enough to have a bottle of brandy along with your bottle of, I'm assuming the holy trinity here in the early 1950s is you got a bottle of rum, you got a bottle of vodka, and you got a bottle of gin. And you might have a bottle of brandy or even a bottle of wine. You don't really have a bottle of wine unless, it's dinner wine.
Mhm.
But you don't have the correct glasses for every kind of liquor. I'm sorry to say. You just don't.
Yeah,
Think
fair
about
enough.
it. By the way, even if it were the nicest apartment, these are tiny apartments. You're going to be drinking your liquor out of the same glass that you drink your orange juice out of in the
Right.
morning. So when I saw the brandy glasses coming out, I was like,
Mhm.
really? Unless he's a big brandy drinker.
Yeah, by
But I was like,
chance.
and there are 3 brandy glasses for someone who lives by himself. I mean, heck, I
Mhm.
have a whole family living here, and we may have, I don't even think we have a brandy glass. We do have, a couple of champagne flutes, but no, we don't have special glasses. So anyway, I just thought that was just like, oh, there's your typical Hollywood. That an
There you go.
apartment
I
like
know
this.
what to
Yeah.
give you for next Christmas then, brandy.
Yes, brandy. We'll have
I
that bottle
couldn't
of
get
brandy
past
first.
I couldn't get past the constant swirling of the brandy cup. I'm like, damn,
That's
they're
the
really
thing,
not.
though, isn't it? Apparently,
I guess I assumed it must have been by how they wouldn't stop. And I'm
Yeah.
like, damn, and none of them like at any point during their acting forgot to keep
Like,
swirling it. I was
wasn't it
actually impressed. Like,
you're
wow.
supposed to there's certain red wines and say
Yeah.
brandies that you're supposed to get the air.
You're
the
supposed to.
yeah.
So brandy is that made? Okay, I could be wrong. Isn't that like from actual raisins, like not grapes, but like
I don't know.
it's something that's like super sugar concentrated. So whatever
Mm.
it is, it's super sicky
sounds-
sweet. And I'm guessing that's why you have to constantly swirl it, or else you just get a mouthful of sugar and alcohol.
Yeah, fair enough. So
Let's
we
find out.
kind of weird little side note
brandy
here.
can be made from grapes, apples, pears, cherries, peaches, and raspberries.
Oh,
It's a
interesting.
fermented process.
You said raspberries. I love that.
Raspberries, raspberries, raspberries,
Raspberries.
Yeah, raspberries.
Raspberries.
raspberries,
Yeah,
raspberries,
Raspberries.
raspberries. Sorry.
Raspberries.
So
I
weird
watched
side
Downton
note.
Abbey. They had raspberries. Sorry.
Weird side note for this scene. When I was watching this, for some reason, all I could see when I was looking at this character, I forgive me, I forget the actor's name, but this Doyle character. Have you ever seen the movie Green Book with Viggo Mortensen?
Oh my gosh,
Oh,
Viggo
I've not
Mortensen's
seen it, but
character.
I felt he looked
Whoa.
so much
Yeah.
like him in this that it was
The
crazy
suit,
to me.
it's the suit, isn't
It's
it?
the
It's
suit, the hair, but also
Yep.
his facial features, his nose, his mouth. Like I kept seeing Viggo
The part
Mortensen
in the
and
hair.
yeah, I kept seeing him, and when I was watching the scene, not so many on other ones with him. Like I wouldn't say they were a spitting image, but for some reason, the look of him in this scene, I kept seeing Viggo Mortensen in the Green Book.
Now that you say it, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't. Once I saw it,
Skinny
I couldn't
tie.
unsee it.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
total side note. I just had to
The
point
thing
that
is,
out.
when
I
I-
had a picture of him from this.
The thing is, when I visualize Viggo Mortensen, I visualize Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the
Viggo
Ring,
Mortensen.
right?
The
Right.
only
And
one.
he's so
Yeah.
when he's unshaven.
Mhm.
Oh, it's just like, when you get them actors, you're like, oh, you look better with a beard. Like, you do. Like, yeah, he looks a bit bizarre without a beard and things like that. So yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, I kept
slightly.
seeing it in this scene. In the Green Book, I think Viggo's got a little bit more weight on him than this guy does. So his face looks a little beefier, but I could see the facial features and the style in this big time.
Yeah, but yeah, he comes in because now, of course, Lisa has seen something and they want him back in. And again, it's just he's dismissive. Like, look, we're not here to do that. Like everybody outside, we're still getting the insights of the out things of what's going on. Yeah, we get a bit romantic, and then of course he leaves, dismissive, don't worry. And of course, then they kind of Grace Kelly again. Again, this is what nightwear? I'm guessing.
I don't know,
very
but
glamorous.
If that's nightwear, I am incredibly underdressed every time I go to bed. I'm not wearing anything close to that quality.
Well, I hope you don't think this is what I want to
No
wear.
smoking
tonight.
jacket.
No smoking jackets, no silk pajama pants. I'm just in regular flannels.
I do like it, when you have sorry, we're just going off tangent a little bit. When you get those old British upstairs, downstairs, and then you get the kind of get ready for dinner, and it's like a bow tie, black suit, and all that. And then when they get ready for evening, when they go have a drink, they have their dress, and then they have their kind of like this would be like, I suppose, a British kind of, oh, this is what I'm wearing when I'm going to take off my makeup, getting ready for bed. It's just like, I love that kind of, that oldly worldy kind of like,
Change their
you
clothes
have
15
you
times a
Yeah,
day.
you're doing too much. You're
yes,
doing
you're
too
like, what?
much.
Oh, it's great. I love it. But
Gosford
you
Park.
wouldn't like it now. Yeah, it's Gosford Park, Downton
Imagine how
Abbey,
much
like,
that is to keep up with, just
oh
in
my
terms of like
God.
laundry and everything. Oh God.
Okay,
give me
so
a break.
you just brought Maggie Smith to mind when her lady's maid is holding up the two suits for shooting, and Maggie Smith says, "Oh no, dear, no, that's all wrong for shooting. I'll just have the simple tweeds." And she's got like 10 different outfits. I'll just have the simple
Oh.
tweeds.
That's it. You have the right shoes, the right trousers, everything has got to be right. And they're like, yeah, it's mad. It's like, really, but that was like probably like, I suppose, like the New York New Money, kind of, they tried to do that as well, wasn't there? There was like, there's a movie, I can't remember. There's a
Yeah.
movie that tries to do an upstairs downstairs version of it. Oh, but it's the American like New Money,
Yeah,
and
the
they're
Gilded
exactly the
Age,
same.
the
Yeah, oh, yeah, mate,
the
yeah,
miniseries,
something
The
like that.
Gilded
Yeah,
Age, and
not
so
bad, but yeah.
the new money couples are, made fun of by the old money in New York during the Gilded Age. And yeah, it's all the nouveau riche stuff, which is all cheap and really tatty, versus poorly made, versus the oldie things, which look old, but they're made extraordinarily well. And that's where like the younger women couldn't understand the old vintage fashion, because the vintage, well, that looks old. It looks old, but it's well made. What you're buying, it looks new, but it'll last, like you'll be wearing it twice and then it'll fall apart, kind of thing. But here, yeah. So yeah. And she just so happened to have her little case with her and her matching slippers too.
That
I
was
can't do the
that. I thought
slippers.
that was funny because she's like, "You said I'd have to live in a suitcase." Well, and she just brings a tiny suitcase with one night outfit. Like, I don't think that's gonna cut it, but whatever.
But you can understand why the Prince of Monaco kind of fell in love with her. Let's just say that.
God
Yeah,
bless
hey,
both
fair
of
enough.
them.
Fair enough.
Good people. Prince Rainier and her. Yeah.
But then we get to something a bit dun dun dun. You never kill a dog
Oh.
on
poor
cinema.
puppy.
John Wick says that. That would have been a good twist in this movie.
Yeah, he just gets the cast off and just
Yeah.
runs train on the whole apartment complex.
Yeah, so there's a scream. Of course, in your head, you think it's something else has happened. You don't realize it's the dog. Now, this is a thing, like you get a little bit just earlier, is the dog goes to wee on the roses, what we just see in the scene now on the left. And of course, who's been looking after the roses? Lars has been looking after the roses. What I find is weird, because I'm guessing it's a shared garden.
Yeah.
Because it's right outside Mrs. Lonely Heart's apartment. So I'm guessing it's one of those apartment blocks where, everybody's got the right to share garden, like a share,
or at least a portion of it.
Yeah.
Right, like that section might have been his versus whatever's next to it.
Yeah. So of course the screams, what's going on? Mrs. Lonely Hearts comes out, and then he's been strangled.
His neck's broken. His neck's broken.
What is horrid? And it's just like a little sweet little dog. And then I'm guessing this is you don't want to see a dog die on screen. So it's and then of course this is the only time where we see the two couples, except for their little interaction when it was kind of on the balcony. That's all we see. And then she goes into a full kind of rant of how who would do this? We're supposed to be neighbors. And then you kind of get the insight. Yeah, they're all neighbors, but they don't really talk to each other.
They don't know each other.
No. So they all go around their own business. And probably the person who knows them the most now is Jeffrey, because he's been looking at because of this heat wave, and they've all had everything open. But it seemed from her little rant, she doesn't like, suspicions aren't there. The only suspicions, of course, comes from Lisa, who goes, why would he kill like a dog? And then, but we've already seen is Billy. He's annoyed with one. He's very annoyed because of the dog was having a little a wee up the roses, and he just flipped or something like that. We still don't know who it could be or what it could be, but the suspicions of what Hitchcock is doing is directly pointing you at Lars now. It's like that. So we're going to think where.
And what was interesting here was just before this, you got another one of those instances where Detective Doyle kind of put the fire out on all the burning questions that Lisa and Jeff had, because they, at this point, you know, the three of them are having a conversation, because now I think Lisa and Doyle are meeting for the first time here, and she's kind of explaining her female intuition and how she believes, you know, such and such things because she left her favorite purse and her jewelry and all these things, to which Doyle then spends the next couple minutes of his dialogue putting the fire out on all of that, explaining it all away, and that he's done this much research and he knows this, this, and this because the postcard and a telephone call and all these different things that have kind of, you know, squashed the curiosity or these kind of accusations coming from Jeff and Lisa. So again, as me, the first time watching this, the audience member watching for the first time, I'm thinking, okay, so they must be, you know, they are making it up. You know, it is just in their heads. He's done all this legwork detective wise. You know, so this must just be something they're making up. And then this scene happens. And then we get the idea of, you know, Jeff brilliantly points out that everybody came out to the courtyard to see what was going on, except for one window who still had, you know, the salesman in there smoking his cigar. So immediately after kind of squashing the idea for audience members that, you know, maybe there is nothing going on, it picks right back up to, oh, well, maybe it actually is. So again, that back and forth, I just thought was really well done throughout the whole movie.
So that we kind of have like the first, I suppose, time jump, like, because otherwise we get like Jeffrey just napping, but we get now straight into kind of it's the next evening kind of thing, unless they did a change of clothes. And she got dressed into another beautiful outfit. Like, this is like, yes. And then Stella's there, and now the conspiracy kind of is what is going on. They need to kind of have out him to kind of get the truth, to get the detective to kind of search what is going on, because now Lisa and Jeffrey is kind of on the same page. Stella is being drawn towards it slowly. She's not 100%, but her with Lisa now having the suspicions, she's been like kind of, I suppose, a bit more insightful that something could have happened. There is something strange going on. So they have a plan to.
But he's got the photo though.
Yeah.
Just before that, I think what convinces Stella is he took a photo of the garden a few days or weeks ago, and he says, you know, pull it over, let me look in the viewer, the negative or the slide in the viewer, and the roses are different at that end of the garden than they are today, and they're like holding it up and pulling it away and holding it up and pulling it away, and you could see that they're different. So they were replanted, which immediately makes them think, well, who was digging? Well, the dog was digging, so the dog was too close. The dog knew too much. And I think that's what also convinced Stella, like, okay, I'm in. And just given her personality, she's like, I'm in. What do you want me to do?
Once she's in, she's fully in.
She's in.
Yeah, I like a conspiracy. So, of course, then it's to give them like a note of like, I don't know how they get, like, is it just a postman or whatever, like a delivery? Or do they just slide it?
No, she takes it under the door.
Lisa
slides it. Yeah,
Lisa puts it under the door. Like, what is it? I know what. No, not I know what you did. What did you do with her? Or what have you done with her?
Yeah.
So yeah, they're waiting for his response. I do like, again, what we said. Look at the reflection in that camera, like the lens, so you can see what we are seeing. Kind of exactly like it's a good Hitchcock. So we get that, and of course, Lars gets the note, a little bit shocked what is going on, and his first thing is to kind of I need to get out. And then of course the phone rings. I think they get it from the yellow pages, don't they? His number, I think so. Yeah, so that he gives
Well,
him
she
the
figures out the address because she goes
Yeah.
around the corner
Oh, right,
and
right.
and figures out the, they figure, okay, 4 up and 2 over or whatever. And then, and then from the yellow pages, they figure out the, because the old yellow pages had name, but had it organized by name and by address. So you could look up a phone number by address or by name. And that's what
But
they
it
did.
did seem a little weird to me because I thought that they had said that he was because I thought the detective had looked into it and found out that they were 5 months into a 6-month lease. So would they really have been in the phone book that quickly? I feel like you had to live at a
That's
residence a
interesting.
little bit longer to actually get into the phone book. I thought it was like,
Yeah.
I don't think
Oh,
they're
I
updating
wonder.
it every 5 to 6 months. That'd be insane.
back in my day.
I did catch the tail end of the phone book era, so I did get some of that. I just thought it was a little weird. I'm like, I thought they were in like a 5 months
Interesting.
into a 6-month lease. I'm like, I don't know that he'd actually be in the phone book, but for the sake of the story, I'm like, I'll look past it.
So he gets his little call, things, and then I loved it.
This was a crazy turn. I was not expecting this.
So they get Lisa, but she's so curious. She's gonna she's going for it. She's
in a dress, no problem.
Yeah,
Well, her and Stella go to dig up the
Yeah.
garden, and they very quickly see nothing there. So immediately, Lisa decides, you know what? Screw it. Just going up, and I'm going to check.
This reminded me, like, the things I look back on that I did as a kid, that it's amazing that I'm still alive today.
breaking
because-
into. So you look at other bits. Sorry.
Explains the broken bones.
Yeah, I was going to
Well,
say, JJ, we've already. Sandy's already admitted to being a peeping Tom. Now you can go for breaking entry.
climbing
So
up
carry on,
fire
Sandy.
escapes. There was a building on the corner, and you could climb up this fire escape and then climb up. The brick was like this recessed brick where you could just get your hand and a foot in, hand, foot, and you could get to the roof. And I look at that building now, like when I'm in my parents' neighborhood, and I'm like, how am I still alive? Like I shouldn't have done, because now, having my own kids of my own, if I found out they were doing the things that I would do, I'd wring their necks anyway. It's it's just like, why do you do these things? But yeah, no problem. Climb up fire escape. I didn't jump into anyone's window uninvited. But yeah, no
you
problem.
jumped into somebody's window when you were invited.
So if you happen to forget to take your key, I was a latchkey kid. If you happen to forget you take your key in the morning and you got home from school and all the house is locked up, you had to climb up the fence, up into the second story porch. We had porches in Baltimore, over the porch wall and in through the window of the upstairs to get in the house. Yeah, if you forgot your key, that's how you got in the house. It wasn't 4 stories up though. This is 4 stories up. That's a little dangerous. But not in a dress. Never done it in a dress.
Now, looking at this, they made her do it.
They absolutely. That's Hitchcock.
100%, because I can't see, that's why I want to take this photo. I can't see any safety harnesses.
Maybe like a crash mat. Yeah.
Maybe, but probably not the crash mats we get today. There's probably like a little, like a ridiculous, like one of those old fire catchers, like fireman catchers, where it's like kind of like a bouncy, like a trampoline kind of style. Yeah.
Oh no, he had to make her do that.
She did it, and she did it well too. She just climbs right up, moves right on over. I was impressed.
Just to let you know, Highlander is here. A bit late.
Whatever your opinion is, James, it's wrong.
Fair enough.
Oh, well, can I say Braveheart is the greatest movie of all time? And then he'd clip it. But
he might have got you there, Highlander.
Yeah. So we get that, and of course, unfortunately, somebody comes back slightly early. Reason why, we don't know. Did he forget something? Did he realize it didn't, like the phone call, the note was a bit suspicious? He needs to.
Oh, I just think it took that long. Like he said that whatever the place was that he sent him to was is like 10 minutes away or 15 minutes
Mm.
away. I'm thinking they just took that much time to dig up the garden. They were cutting
Oh,
it close. I wasn't thinking he came home. I think he went to the place, saw that the
nobody.
guy was there. In the short story,
Mm.
it's a park that they tell him to go to, and come back. And the person that in the short story, since there is no girl in the short story, um, the Jeffrey's character has a servant of some sort, and he sends the servant over to check things out in the apartment. But yeah, I'm just thinking they took that long, and he's just back.
Mm. So
I would be curious why he didn't send him farther
Yeah.
away, like pick something on the other side
Yes,
of town,
seriously.
not
Yeah,
just 10
exactly.
minutes away.
Yep.
So we get that, and of course, she is confronted. Literally, she was going through trying to find the wedding ring in the handbag, I think. So, or something. It's like to this. I'm
Yes.
sure it's that. Yeah, it's the ring, isn't it? The wedding
Yeah,
ring.
to prove that she
yeah.
didn't go away willingly, because no woman would go away willingly without her
Mm.
wedding ring.
Yeah. So, that's it. And of course, what's happening? We have now Jeffrey's guy absolutely kind of his
Just
face
looking, not screaming, like to try to make a distraction to help her out. Nope, just watching. I hate this part.
Yeah, and then but the thing is, he's actually just before this, he actually has called the police.
Yeah.
So he has actually think, but he doesn't want to give away. He kind of wants to. He's using her as bait a little bit, very much so, to find out that. And of course, they have a little bit of a struggle where at this time, like she could very much kill. He could kill her very, very easily if he's the murderer. And of course, then we get
kind of
the
a weak
police turn. Yeah, the police turn up. He's being a bit menacing. What is going on? But the police, they turn up. Everything kind of goes away. She explains what's going on because you can hear her kind of saying, "Oh, the door was left open," like that. So it's a bit blasé, but he doesn't believe her. The police come. They kind of don't see anything untoward, and then we get a little bit of a moment, a Hitchcock moment when it needs to go silent.
I know.
And nothing's happening until we get to see the door.
Well, and one thing before this, is this where Miss Lonely Heart is?
Yeah, that's where I thought you were
going.
going.
Sorry.
Pan down to Miss Lonely
this is where
Heart.
Miss Lonely Heart's kind of having her very sad little moment too, which is just because I think he initially gets on the phone with the cops to call for that because Stella's kind of keeping an eye on her, and she realizes like, oh, that's enough, sleeping pills or whatever it is, right? Because she's the nurse, she's like, that's enough of that pill to put YouTube safe language to end things, so to speak. So immediately, as she's kind of witnessing what's going on, they're like, oh, maybe it's nothing. And then they notice her writing something down. And then very quickly, they see her it's kind of a panning between the two windows. And then you see her kind of put whatever she was writing right next to the bedside and all that, where she was sitting, where the pills were. And immediately Stella's like, call the police. So he initially gets on the phone, I think, to call the police to try to help Miss Lonely Heart. But then at the same time, this whole scenario is breaking out with Lisa and the salesman. And then if I recall, it's the music of the pianist who kind of saves Miss Lonely Heart, because she hears some of his music and for whatever reason runs outside to hear it, runs to the window to hear it, and doesn't obviously take the pills. But again, just another sad little portion of the story that's Miss Lonely Hearts to tell. And that was the point I was referencing earlier, where the suspense for me was actually much greater in watching Miss Lonely Heart and seeing if they'd be able to intervene before she did what she was planning on doing, more so than it was for the struggle with the salesman and Lisa's character. I was like completely invested in Miss Lonely Heart at this point. Like, please stop it. I hope it doesn't happen. So kudos to him being Alfred Hitchcock, to be able to kind of run two suspense storylines simultaneously with each other. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, because I suppose that is your mind though, isn't it? What is she doing?
Mhm.
You're being Jeffrey.
Mhm.
You're
And
using
what's interesting about her too is hers is very clear what she's doing. There is no guessing. Is she not? Hers is very, very clear of what's going on. There is no space for the mind to wonder. It's right in front of you, which again, just very interesting to see both of those things going on simultaneously. And again, as a first time viewer, I can imagine most of the audience went through that experience watching it the first time, which is now you're feeling tense for what she's got going on. You're feeling tense for what Lisa's now got going on. And just that difference in the two assumptions, more so that one's an assumption, one's very straightforward. Running those simultaneously, I thought was very well done.
And Stella's gone now because Lisa's been arrested, which is safer than being, beaten to a pulp by Mr. Thorvald. So he sends Stella, Jeffrey sends Stella to go bail her out. Says, hey, we need to grab some money and go bail her out. So now Stella's gone. So now he's by himself. Now the door.
So we get the door. We get kind of there's a noise. And he knows it's happening. He knows, like, he's played it up probably a little bit as well. Like, he suspects who it is. And then Hitchcock's great. Let's make him look like best picture I could get. But you don't need much. You just need the top of the head and then the trousers. That is it. Oh, sorry, pants for you Americans.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That's all you need. You know who it's possibly going to be. That is a great. I hate to say it, like plagiarizer. A great looking like a psycho. Literally, just going to put him in the darkest light, because the light is not the light what you naturally get, because the light from the bottom is supposed to be coming from the windows. The top light is just there for effect. Like, that is it. So it's great because they're a little bit between them. Like, Jeffrey has grabbed the old style bulb flashlights,
The flash bulb,
yeah, and then he's backed off into the dark, and now it's a silent kind of playoff. Lance is like, "What do you want?" And literally, there's no answer. There's nothing. I like this. It's very it's a very I suppose if you were to play it like a very subtle Westerns playoff, I suppose, Western thing, and it is like the kind of thing, but with you not seeing anybody's expression, because when you look at like they're both their faces are in the dark. That is greatly done, because they're ones, you know what's happening, but you do not need not just a facial expression. Neither of them give body movements really at this point. It's just literally a standoff. It could have been I suppose still photos, and then just the over the top, the suspense that Hitchcock is given to it, because they're not doing anything. They're literally
he's just sitting there and
standoff.
he's just walking toward him. That's it.
Yeah, and then of course we get from that, couldn't get good shots. Like, so he starts to approach after being a bit peed off, and that's the best way to put it, that Jeffrey isn't saying anything, and he's approaching, and every time he approaches, Jeffrey does a flash and it blinds him. You get what's going on with the glow in his eyes,
it like goes like red and all that. I will say, I thought they did the flash one too many times in this scene. Just because I don't know, it does it so many times that it feels a little silly by like the third, fourth time. Only because like honestly, one or two flashes would have been enough to really, like, in that kind of darkness, if you're not, no light at all. I mean, for Christ's sake, if you've ever been sleeping at night and you got to go to the bathroom, you flick the lights on, you can't see a damn thing because it hurts your eyes. So, one or two probably would have been sufficient, at least enough to like call for help or something.
Yeah.
But for me, it was also the repeated action of the salesman taking his glasses off. Like, dude, it has nothing to do
Oh.
with your glasses. That's
What is
completely
that gonna
irrelevant.
do?
Yeah, as a glasses wearer myself, I know that has nothing to do with your glasses. It's your pupils and your eye. Like, so the whole like, oh, I'm gonna adjust my glasses every time. It just kind of started to feel a little bit silly to me. Like the first time, if you went for the glasses, sure. Each time doing the exact same thing, it just kind of lost a little bit of the tense effect and came off a bit silly.
But he finally gets there. Yeah, it's Hitchcock doing the Hitchcock suspense. When you think it's going to be the point, he carries it on. He drags it out. That's Hitchcock. Yeah, he does that a lot.
And that's so something I'd like to keep an eye out for that as I watch more of his movies now.
Yeah,
that's
he's the master of suspense, I suppose, if you really call it like that. And so they get into a scuffle. Of course, probably we know now that Jeffries, he's going to be done for because he's broken leg. What can you do without like to have full movement? So he gets him over the edge like that. I'm lucky enough the police turn up.
They sort of catch him, but not.
But now here we go. The greatest shot. This looks better. No, sorry. I'm gonna do like I know what you're gonna say. This looks better than some Disney and Marvel.
I'll tell you,
going out now.
It at the very least doesn't look worse than some. I'll tell you that. I'll give it that. It definitely looked a little rough, but again, you're talking 1954. Like you can let that slide. I'm sure it probably looked good for 1954.
So they did it quick, and I just managed to catch it. It's. I don't like. I at least get the coloring right. Like it looks so weird, doesn't it? It's
rough. It looked really rough in real time.
This is the only bit.
Like you said, I mean, you see stuff today that looks just as crappy, and they've got all the resources and technology in the world, so they have no excuse. At least this is 1954.
But we get that, of course. Then he hits the floor, gets caught, but falls down, and of course they all run to his aid. Of course, this is where again Lisa's back, and Stella, that like she instantly kind of makes sure he's okay. You can see the love there. I do like this. I do like their love, like their I suppose unsaid love story. So I would have liked it. Like I like it. So like you said, it's not part of the book. I actually don't mind. I thought it was a good little a good. I suppose it's not good. I suppose it's kind of needed. You got that kind of another dynamic to what you're seeing. I think if it was like, as you said, like a servant, I don't think it would have played out the same.
Or if it was just even Stella, for example, like just somebody there taking care of him in some degree, some capacity, it wouldn't have been the same. And I would even say, like, in terms of their chemistry, you could buy a lot of it outside of the moments where he's being frustratingly stubborn about the idea of being with her, where he's just like, dude, you are an idiot. This is the best you're ever going to do. You better take it and run. But outside of those moments where he's just being stubborn like that about his whole anti-marriage thing, you can believe the relationship between the two of them.
So we get that. We get then another detective who's looking down on them all, and for some reason Lars did a Columbo, and he spilt the beans straight away.
He did really fast, didn't he?
Really fast.
Told him everything. I wonder what kind of techniques they were using on him. I'm just
this is literally this was Columbo.
it was
like
fast.
Columbo shows like what happened, but like literally it was, and we need to get it up.
And we're up against the runtime, so
off screen. What needs to be happening? He's just going to give it up. What is a bit? I did like that bit.
It ties the bow on it a little too quick.
Exactly. It's a bit of what's happened previously, with how he's being a bit. He's played all the suspicions to his side, and it's only there is nothing that ties him to a murder. It's just this was just a bit of a we need to go out.
He had to confess because he had everything else was circumstantial. The the trunk got picked up by a woman at the station who happened to have the key, but the detective didn't check the woman's name and didn't check her ID. I mean, eventually, I guess he had to think, hey, eventually I'm going to get caught. Eventually, someone's going to find the woman who picked up the trunk and know that she wasn't my wife. And eventually somebody, so now in the short story, it was not, the wife was not disposed of in the way she was disposed of in the film. Let's put it that way. She was not dispatched in her different parts, shall we say, in the short story. And one has to think, again, given hindsight and years of watching The Sopranos, that doing what he did would have absolutely destroyed that apartment.
Oh yeah.
Like, there's no way
He's
that
not just wiping down the walls with a
no,
cloth.
well,
Like,
she was
that's
in the
not gonna do it.
bathtub. Well, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's a
You
little
get
bit of kind of that. Yeah,
everywhere.
But you get a scene later, and I've got the things where they're painting it.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
you can't see it.
but I would also
And then
say,
when the police turned up, yeah, if it was a bit, yeah, did he have enough time to clean when he took
right,
Lisa
because like
away?
they would have been in the apartment,
Yeah.
and Lisa would have seen something like cleaning up. I mean, again, you almost went into it in detail. YouTube friendly, the way in which he would have disposed of her. Yeah, there would have just been a ton of mess. And
Horrendous.
I also would say because they mentioned, I think here, the garden, and then the idea that he's going to take us on a tour of the river because he had to move it. So they say something along the lines of like, oh, what about the garden? They're like, oh, they had to kill the dog, or because the dog was getting too close to the garden and was figuring out that something was there, so he had to move it, blah blah blah. And in my mind, I'm thinking, there's no way somebody who pulls off this crime is going to try to hide the evidence in a small garden bed right in the middle of a set of apartment complexes, and then replant the flowers so perfect. Like I would have just left the garden thing out of it personally.
Yeah.
I think that it's too unbelievable. The idea of that, like he would have been able to unplant all those flowers, put the pieces of whatever there, replant the flowers perfectly, all in the dead of the night, without anybody noticing a thing, other than just that 2 yellow flowers on the end were a little bit shorter this week than they were last week. Like, I don't know if anybody's garden, but that takes time. That takes a mess to even just like neaten up and clean up the actual planting of flowers. Never mind if you're doing what this guy was apparently doing in the process. So I probably would have just left the garden thing out of it and went with, the East River.
So he's giving his out of screen a confession. And then the next scene is the heat's gone down. Finally, it's back to 70 Fahrenheit. What's probably 20. So it's still warmish. And then we get a little bit of everybody gets their yay moment. So we get the across the things, we get the musician. He tells the landlady, who there was a subtle thing that they might have been having it off, that he's been now pressed. And again,
there was something about how he's been paying his rent, or some kind of comment about that.
And now we get workmen into the last place. They're painting it. So this is what I said, like it could be we get
that painting could also just be the turning over of an apartment as well.
It could
because a lot of times you move it up, somebody moves out, the landlord or whoever will have painters come in, repaint the apartment too, and all that. So
they've got a new dog back in the basket, and then of course we get
I love this. This was funny.
I did too.
Yeah. Mrs.
I'm guessing he's come back from the Korean War, or he's like a new recruit. He's been away from a while, and he's like, he's lost a bit of weight and he needs a bit of food. That's it. And then she's that it's just a bit. It's a very nice, sweet scene. It's just like okay.
Well, and we got the nice little happy ending for Miss Lonely Heart too, which was nice because she's with the musician. You kind of get the idea that song is going to draw up some kind of relationship with the two and all that. So you get a few nice little endings, and then you get the newlywed couple who's like on the verge of
Yeah.
divorce or something already.
Well, it was like if
That
you
poor
quit your job, I wouldn't have got married to you.
Yeah, they're
Like,
just
it's
you know
good.
arguing like that. It's like,
Yeah.
oh god.
Yeah, and then of course you get Jeffrey, who's peacefully asleep, and then we get Pantu that now he's broken
Yeah,
both his legs.
a
Little bit of funny koi. It's like that, and then of course, but who seems to have moved in? Lisa. Yeah, Lisa, and I like that because what's it like something about the Himalayas, and then she goes back to a fashion magazine.
Yeah, she was just pretending to
Yeah,
read an adventure book, and then she goes back to her Harper's Bazaar or whatever her fashion mag is. So everything's back to normal. I wanted to share this because I had mentioned that this was. Why does it keep doing that? I keep losing the screen I'm trying to share. So I was mentioning this is a very short story. It was originally published in the magazine called Dime Detective. So this was a pulp magazine, one of those, cheap for a dime. You'd get a magazine full of stories. Now, this illustration is not from It Had to Be Murder. This illustration, because again, there was no girl. Whoops, there was no girl in. I didn't mean to switch screens. Okay, I've lost that one. I'm having technical difficulties today.
it's your old age, as we keep
It
saying.
is. Buttons keep clicking, but I'm not clicking. They're doing it by themselves too. So back to the Dime Detective. I absolutely love this cover, and I saw a whole bunch of them. This is not related to the film. Because there was no girl in the film, but I just wanted to share how this little 13-page story was picked up and became this film. It was written by, as I mentioned, Cornell Woolrich, who also assisted in writing the screenplay. And the film was, not 1969, 1954. As I mentioned, Thelma Ritter, our supporting actress here, she was nominated for 6 different Oscars in 6 different films, but not this film, but had never won an Oscar. And I'm going to look for all the other films that she was in, because I do remember her from All About Eve, but I don't remember her in some of the other films that she was
She's
in.
more of a supporting in this
Yeah, like nominated for, but to be nominated for Best Supporting Actress, that's a pretty big deal. So how did this film do against other films released in 1954? I'm gonna share my screen. Why is my screen jumping today? It's making me crazy. Okay. Must be StreamYard. I blame StreamYards.
When in doubt.
The film was made for a budget of $1 million, which was actually a lot for back then. Which would be
probably
like
the set. Probably the set.
It was all the set.
Now that I think of it, that checks out. $1 million in 1954 is crazy for a film. But
it was a set, and you had probably two of the highest paid actors in Hollywood at the time, in James Stewart and Grace Kelly. So that would have been like 11.8 million today. This was a huge box office hit. It made $37.9 million, which is $441 million today. It also did not win an Oscar. It was nominated for 4. Hitchcock was nominated for Best Director, and the writers for screenplay, cinematography, and sound, but it didn't win anything. And probably part of the reason, again, 1954 was a decent year for films. This was the 4th highest grossing film for that year. White Christmas was number 1. By the way, the song White Christmas, that is not where the song White Christmas does not come from the film White Christmas. The song White Christmas came from a film prior to that, and then later was used in the film White Christmas. 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and a film I've never heard of before, Demetrius and the Gladiators. Has anyone heard of Demetrius and the Gladiators?
I was like, what is that?
No. And Hitchcock released 2 films that year. My favorite Hitchcock film, Dial M for Murder, was also released that year, and it was the 14th highest grossing film that year, also starring Grace Kelly. So busy year. This was Hitchcock's time. Like, this was his thing. He was churning out films, but I thought it was interesting that there were 2 released in the same year in 1954. So this was my pick. I'll go last.
I must say, like, I would like to know how long this took to shoot. So because it's because of how it's set and how it's staged, there's not much, like when you have other movies. Oh, we got to go to this other set. We need to do this other setup. It's all set up. Hitchcock has set it all up. All the cameras are in their right position. Like, there's probably a couple of riggings they've got to do. All the lighting just needs to be there. I bet this was like a very quick turnaround. He was just getting it there, like getting the set ready like that. So I wonder, like, we know he's a bit pedantic with some
harder
other,
to film on location for sure.
Yeah, it's like, but even when you actually think about, like, when the other scenes, the only scene you get outside of Jeffrey's bit is when he's on the floor.
That's true.
There is no other setup. So the setup is there. It's all about how the rigging was. So I wonder, like, if it was a really quick turnaround, like everybody did it really quick, or it was very, Hitchcock dragging it out. No, we're doing this for a few months, and we're going to make sure you get your perspective right. So that would be a good thing. But yeah, so I'm gonna go second then, Jay, because this is your first time.
To go first.
Yeah.
So I actually really like this. I thought, I guess I can't say it was a good introduction to Hitchcock movies, just because I don't know if it was the perfect introduction. I enjoyed the introduction to Hitchcock's movies, being this one. I don't know what the best one to watch is, so if anybody has a recommendation on that, feel free to put it out there, because I'd like to check out more of his movies. But I enjoyed it. I like a good suspense movie. I like a good thriller. I could really appreciate the way they built this set and did all that. I thought that was actually really impressive. That's something, like I said earlier in the stream, I do always try to put my mind in the time period of when these movies are filmed first, just to make sure I'm appreciating that, because it is honestly impressive to build a set, excuse me, that's that detailed, that works so well visually, not only just for the idea of giving a backdrop to the movie, but the way they use windows, or Hitchcock uses windows to tell the story, but also artistically, in the sense of how we talked about the way he sets up these characters quickly and efficiently, but just through glimpses of their lives, the same way you would only get glimpses of people if you were to, peer in their windows, because you're not getting the full detail of anything. Not that I'm recommending anybody goes around peering in people's windows. You definitely shouldn't do that, because it is illegal, I believe, in most every country. So I wouldn't do that if I were you. But if you happen to be on a walk and you just look to the left or right and you see beside somebody's window, sometimes the eyes wander. It happens, I'm sure. But that would be what you see. You're only seeing glimpses of people's lives. So I think artistically and effectively, in terms of the story, that was a really clever kind of way to do it. And just in general, I thought it was a well-written, good story. I liked the characters. I could buy into the love story. I really liked some of the side characters, like that we actually do hear and see more of, like Stella or Detective Doyle. The thriller aspect of it, I think, or suspense. We'll go with suspense. I do feel like it's more about suspense than thriller. I think when I think of thrillers, I think a little bit more of stuff like the movie Seven, or stuff like that that's just a little bit more intense in its thrilling nature, versus this, which was more suspense in terms of like, did he do it? Is he there? It's like, who's coming down the hallway? That type of thing. I know they kind of run simultaneously, but I see a little bit of a distinction between the two genres. So although this is suspense thriller, I'd probably put heavier on the suspense, and I do think he does that well. I even, like I said, like the side kind of suspense story of Mrs. Lonely Heart and what she's got going on and all that. I like the little happy endings he kind of puts on some of these different stories for, Miss Torso. I think even the couple that sleeps on the balcony, they get a new puppy and all that. Like,
Yay.
He puts a few kind of happy little endings or happy bows on a story that the main, part of it was something terrible, which is a guy who murders his wife and, disposes of it, and somebody kind of catches him in the process. So putting those little nice, like, kind of, even the Jeff's ending with Lisa is a nice little happy kind of ending for all this stuff that was really a pretty gruesome, story to tell. It doesn't feel gruesome in terms of the way it's done in the movie, but again, we're talking about, a really bad thing that takes place that Jeff happens to see. So interesting how he balances those tones. I think it all fits really well. Overall, I'd give it a very strong 6.5. I think there's a few things that kind of bring me a little bit down, the accents, a little bit of some of the logic in some of it, but nothing too crazy. I really wanted to give it a strong 7, but I think for now, and maybe after a rewatch or something, or seeing more of Hitchcock and understanding his style, I might be able to bump it up a little bit. But my first kind of gut reaction number was the 6.5. So I want to stick with that to be genuine. But it's a really good 6.5. I really enjoyed it. It was a happy kind of, I wouldn't say happy, given the nature of the movie, but I was happy to finally step into the world of Hitchcock, and I'm looking forward to stepping further into it. Definitely recommend, as somebody who waited far too long to watch anything from Alfred Hitchcock. I would say, if you haven't, good place to start. At least I think so.
Excellent. Yeah. James.
Now, I'm going to have to speak modern to speak about Alfred Hitchcock. And I mean that in the greatest sense of, like, I think I've probably watched 90% of Hitchcock's. Now, when you go by Hitchcock, I think you grade Hitchcock like you do Quentin Tarantino. You've got your movies you kind of like. I know there's, like, the scale is completely different. Hitchcock did so much more, but like, oh, I like that, and then you scale it down. I like The Rear Window, but off the bat, I'm going to score it a 6, and there are reasons for it. It's only because it is heavily Hitchcock. But the reason is, I think it's because I like some of his other movies more.
Yeah,
and it's very things, and I give that is no, there is suspense in it. He does it better in other movies. Now you get, like, this is very clever film making, and I mean that is the various things, except for, like, the set is impressive, but you've got clever is the how it is shot. You forget it's all in one room. It's all in one room. So your things, you've got some great cast in it. Everybody does their job thing, but the suspense for me, when you see some of the other ones he does, when it gives you, oh, you're on the edge of your seat and absolutely like, oh, this doesn't do it. I think in this one, he purposely shows and tells and makes you make up your own mind of what you're seeing. Whereas other ones he does that are better, and I don't want to say it because Jay, of course, hasn't seen it, and some of the chat might not have seen it, is where he defers what you are looking at to not show you what is going on, obviously, to suspend that fear. The fear of this should be what is in the murder. Could it have been? But he gives so much away in this movie. I just downgrade it for that, but it's great cinematography to show that. But he's purposely done that is because he wanted the audience to go, oh, I have to think whilst I'm watching it. But I like the suspense he gives, and I suppose, yeah, Jay's right, it's not a thriller, but other movies he does is literally on the boundary of thrillers. I wouldn't say he is a thriller director. He is a suspense. He's in his own. He probably needs one of those ones where you have these great. If you go in Quebec or whatever, you need to put certain directors in their own little category, and he is, because that is he made this. He made the genre of his own cinema. Though, like, and he knew what he was doing, like how he does blurred to focus effects that you wouldn't get from any other director. He's purposely made the cinematographer go, we're out of focus. We need to be out of focus. You wouldn't get that, especially modern day. You wouldn't get everything to be pristine. But he purposely did it to make you not see 100% what you're looking at. So I love it for that. But it just downgrades it because I've watched so much. So that's why I like the fresh take of Jay's giving, like, you know,
Yeah.
half, like to 6 to 7, is because that is probably strong enough to give it, like, because I saw it probably, you know, probably the late 80s, probably. But this is like having that. Did it progress with time? Oh, it's still great because of how it's directed and how it's shot. Is it the greatest story? Like, if you went, does it age well? I don't think it ages well, just because of the storyline. I don't think it does. That's just me being I'm being a Hitchcock. I'm being very pedantic with that. It's because we got spoiled, and Jay brought up a great one, Seven. You know, we've been spoiled, you know, with those kind of movies, those thriller suspense movies will get you
Right.
ooh, you know, that this one does do it, but it doesn't do it in the way that the other movies do, like the other Hitchcock movies does it. So yeah, like, this is your first good Rear Window for Hitchcock, but there I adore some of the other ones. So yeah, it's a 6 for me. Just saying that, I think, like, I'm just going to, before Sandy, as I say, literally, I'm going to end the poll now. Psycho, what was the top one? 62%. All the other ones, Rear Window, Vertigo, and North by Northwest, only got 12%. So, you know, chat probably, you know, it is good. There's just so many better ones. Like, there are better ones. That's the top 4. I would put probably 2 of those out of the top 4 easily. But yeah,
Interesting. Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that too, Stasis, because you know, in terms of it not being as suspenseful as maybe some of his other ones, because I think that's part of what kind of let me down a little bit with this one as well, was that I've always been told about, you know, suspense with him, and I think even in my own mind, I might have made suspense a little too synonymous with thriller.
Yeah.
So I didn't feel like, by the end of it, I guess, almost like I said earlier, like, I almost felt more suspense. Not almost, I kind of did feel more suspense from the Miss Lonely Heart with her pills situation than I did the actual main focus of the story. And even with that, by the end of it all, I just felt like it wasn't as suspenseful as I would have expected, given what I've heard about Alfred Hitchcock going into it. Yeah. And that's probably just maybe this film. That's why I'm a little bit more interested to see, you know, something like Psycho with Norman Bates, because I do know the Norman Bates, you know, character. And
that's
all that.
why I found it interesting.
I'm interested.
And For Murder is the same year. It is very like that. So, like, this one, like, I think he does very well when he has a different setting. I think he was just clever. I think he was clever in this movie. Like, that's what I said about, like, Psycho. You remember the end bit? I think the greatest part of the Psycho movie is the beginning bit, because it's really clever, but in different settings to the setup. If you do not know what you're going to see, it's an old day, very, very like Dusk Till Dawn, where you do not see it coming. That is Hitchcock when he's at his peak. You do not see it coming. That is very bizarre, because it, you know, like, spoilers, put your ears in your mouth if you've never seen it. Is vampires, Gangster the Vampires, but that is where Hitchcock does well, where you do not expect it. This one, he just shows it. He shows it, and he lets you think about it. And unfortunately, I just don't think the suspense is there for, you know, for me at least, to go ooh, because I think it was too on the nose. But that's probably it's 1950s, so it's there. So that's my little say on it. Sandy, as this was your first pick of Hitchcock that came on the wheel, but there are many on it.
There are several on it. So I mean, but just to carry on from where you left off, I think for this film, you know, maybe we overthink it. So I, again, having read the short story, reading the short story made me a little more disappointed in the film. It would have, like, had I not read the short story, my score may have been higher. But having read the short story and seen what opportunity was missed, where the short story plays out all in his mind, and you really do question whether he's seeing what he thinks he's seeing. You really wonder, like, okay, are you jumping to conclusions? But when you know, when you say the film is on the nose, there's no misdirection in this film. That's what's missing from like what we traditionally think of a good suspense or thriller, is that there's some form of misdirection. And maybe that is the misdirection. Maybe Hitchcock is giving us what is obvious because for him that's not obvious. And I'm not trying to be overly clever, and I don't think he was trying to be overly clever. But when you look at all the parodies that I've mentioned, in every one of those parodies, at the end of the day, the person on this end of the telescope or binoculars or camera, they were wrong. They were not seeing what their brain told them they were seeing. But in this case, Jeffries was right. He was seeing what he was seeing because he was seeing too much. He was seeing all of it, and the conclusions he was making were being reinforced by Stella, and well, by Lisa first, and then by Stella. I do, like the both of you, I praise this film for the care taken in filming, and it's sad to look at films made today. Take CGI out of it, take all the effects out of it, but it's just sad to see films today that have so many anachronisms, miscalculations, problems in continuity, product placement, those kind of things that you see in films today. And just to see a film that was shot well, and if you were to consider any Hitchcock film to be, well, most Hitchcock films to be a stage play, this would be an easy one to make into a stage play because you've got this condensed, self-contained set, right? And that's kind of what I think about. Like, he's made this a one set, design here. I love the way he, as both of you said, I love the way we learn so much about each of these characters without having most of them say a word. A few of them do, but we learn so much from the setting, from their actions, and from the performances that they gave, particularly Ms. Lonely Hearts, acting to no one and doing such a good job there. I also, I don't think there was a need to have a Grace Kelly, but I know why there was a Grace Kelly in this film. In addition to having her there as such an attractive actress, it also created a second story, so that you didn't just have the story in his head. So you had that second story of their love story, to kind of balance out the murder happening across the way. And I think all of Hitchcock's films have a tiny little bit of levity, because life is balanced. These horrible murders and crimes are balanced with a few moments of lightness, I think, and you'll find that in most of his films. I would have initially given this a 7, but after reading the short story, I bumped my rating down to a 6.5. For me, it's not my favorite Hitchcock. It's probably number 4 on my list, and I've said it 100 times, but when we get to Dial M for Murder, I'll tell you all why Dial M for Murder is my favorite. Because you have to watch it about 5 times to really get it. And you know what? I appreciate that in a film. Some of you won't. Some of you will not appreciate that in the film, and that'll probably knock down your score. Overall, I do like the casting. I thought that Hitchcock did a tremendous job in casting each and every one of those characters. Especially, again, kudos to Thelma Ritter, who played Stella. I thought her performance was tremendous. And I also appreciate chatting about this film with both of you. I like when I choose a film and I can share it with, and get different opinions, especially Jay, from you, having not had seen it before. So
I must say, like, to Sandy's points, you said about like how they acted without acting, and I don't get. I mean, I'm just gonna probably do a little bit around here. Is like the modern director, how they've not watched these movies, like just not this movie, but Hitchcock, this era movies, because there's so many of this kind of acting without acting to tell a character trait.
yes,
And you said like Marvel do it terribly sometimes, where they over explain the character to trying to get the audience to understand them. Mrs. Lonely Hearts straight away. The musician. They don't have the musician doesn't have a line. I don't think, but things
no,
like Mrs. Lonely Hearts tells the dog's being strangled. That is it. Like that is how storytelling should be. You should not have to over explain your character. If you're over explaining them, you need to revisit how you're writing that character in the script, because they should be there already. And I think these movies, not just this movie, does it so well. Hitchcock does it well. There's other directors do it well, where I don't need to know the full insight of the character. You just need to give me brief moments, and my head is clever enough to kind of work it out. And like modern directors, like if you get like ones you've never heard of or whatever, doing Warner Brothers, Disney, Paramount, whoever it is, the big like Amazon, they just go over the top. I need to like, oh, by the way, the audience is very dumb, so we need to chicken feed them every little thing. And it's not, you know what, most of your audience get it, and we're very, very clever. And we don't need to have the full background. They just forgot that. The modern Hollywood, the production streaming services, they feed you too much of like the what is going on, like Kevin Spacey's character, not just in Seven, but in probably the Usual Suspects.
Usual Suspects, yeah.
So, yeah, it's done so well. It's like, you know what? That was enough. And you know what? My brain just felt in all the gaps. And it's great. And that is great. And the most thing is, when those movies happen and you get that, you know what? There's going to be 5 of you who all think the same thing, because the direction and how they set it up was correct. The modern audience feeding that, spoon feeding. You know what? It's a bit boring. And the worst thing is, it takes you out of the environment because you're over explaining the character. It's like you're given, I've got to give a brief to everybody about the characters we're seeing. These are like the 50s, the 60s, especially the 70s, when they like Dirty Harry's a great one. You know, bang off the bat what you're going to get. Like, you don't need to explain it. Their actions derive their characters, and this is what this did in this movie. And I think that's why, it's greatly directed, because you do not need the dialogue. Their direction of what they are gives the character trait.
No, I think you're right. I think that's a huge problem with movies nowadays. I think it's kind of a two-part thing, where I think one, writers and directors nowadays just may not be as talented. I mean, a lot aren't as talented as Alfred Hitchcock. That's, easy to say, but in general, there's a lot of directors and people who have written movies, directed movies, who have done exactly that, which is let the audience, go along for the ride instead of telling them what to think every 2 seconds, who aren't as famous as Alfred Hitchcock. So it doesn't even necessarily need to be that you're some great legendary director. You just have to understand storytelling. And I think a problem with a lot of movies and directors and writers nowadays is that, one, they underestimate the intelligence of the audience. They do think the audience, I think, is just dumb at points and can't grasp things without them spoon feeding it to them. But also, I think it's a kind of a sign of, how of their own intelligence. I don't want to say how dumb they may be, because, whatever, they're not dumb people or whatever. Maybe they're not, maybe they are, who knows? I don't know them personally, but it kind of tells me of a little bit about your own intelligence and how you grasp movies. Because I know I use this movie kind of to pick on a lot, but Madam Web, for example, had one of the worst exposition dumps I've ever seen, where for some reason they thought what they were doing was so clever that audiences couldn't pick it up, which for the record, it wasn't. But they thought it was so clever that audiences couldn't pick it up. So they had to do an exposition dump where she literally talks to her cat in like an unhinged type of way. Like, everybody talks to their pets and their animals, but like, I'm not talking to my pet about my daily plan, about some big thing I have going on. It's like, hey, buddy, how you doing? You look cute today. It's little things like that. It's not like this whole scene of her explaining the plot of what she now has to do in the movie to her cat was just ridiculous. So it's like, even when you feel like you need to exposition dump, you couldn't even do it in a way that made sense. Like, to me, that represents how you would want to take in this, like this portion of the story. So that then tells me, like, maybe you're not only just underestimating the intelligence of your audience, you might be overestimating your own intelligence quite a bit too.
Absolutely.
So it's like, it's kind of this double-edged sword there for them, where they're really just kind of making the almost pissing off the audience. Because like, again, watching that movie, I'm like, dude, do you think I'm either that stupid or your movie was that smart that I couldn't figure out what was going on? And at the same time, you just end up looking stupid because, like, dude, you have her talking to a cat to explain this. That was the best exposition dump you could think of. Because we've talked about, I can't remember which movie it was recently, but I remember using the phrase exposition done right, because there are ways you can do these exposition dumps that work. They fit, they flow with the story, they don't feel too on the nose, and they give you just what you need to make sure that the audience is clued into what you're doing. So there are ways to do it right. It's just, you get these ones nowadays, and it seems more frequent with everything you watch, whether it's shows or movies, where it's like, dude, we're not stupid. Like, I could have figured that out. We're not stupid, and you're not that smart. There was nothing that clever going on here that I couldn't have figured out.
Yeah, but I think this is like the whole point. Like, this comes from a book, and it's a short story, so they had to drag it out into a screenplay. And the writer was clever enough. But the writer was clever enough. Do you know why? But because he has probably life experience, or she.
Right.
And then the director has probably got a background of watching loads of movies. And that's the problem. Like, if the days ones, they think they're very clever when they come out of university or college or whatever it is to do it straight away, because I know better than the predecessors. I'm not monoble. All I want from a writer is somebody with life experience who knows how to write, because they don't know exactly what Joe just said. But you need, you know what? I want a proper nerd director that's gone, you know what? I started off watching silent movies,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. And now it's just like, you know what? I watched some 80s movie, got bored, and now I'm like, I know what I'm better is.
I took writing 101 and graduated from certain film school, and now I have.
And then the thing is, like, when, like you said about Madam Web, thank God I've not watched it.
Oh God,
me either.
It is truly one of the worst movies I've seen.
You still get like people, what they probably funded it to is like, well, yeah, you needed that explanation, wouldn't you?
Right.
You wouldn't have got the movie otherwise. And then they realize that, like, that they're the 2%, but they're the loud 2%. And you get other movies like it, like I hate I'm gonna say, like, not just because of The Last Jedi, like, I hate Ryan Johnson's You Don't See It. Like we said it about, like, the Italian Job. You don't see it because it wasn't explained in the movie. And then he gives you a shock. Right. Why is it a shock? It's not a shock. It's bad writing, bad directing. Why? Because you didn't play into it. And you'll get that with Hitchcock movies. He starts off with it, so you rewatch it and you go, oh, it was there all the time.
Exactly. It was in front of you the whole time.
Yeah. But they think they're that clever, is we won't share you anything, and then boom, there it is.
Right. And it's like, yeah, that's not a plot twist, dude. No, you never alluded to that at any portion of this film.
Yeah, and all it does is make the people watching, most people, it just get pissed off. I wasted my time for that ending. What are you talking about? It's like that. It's like, sorry, Jay, because you said it. Seven plays into it. Seven plays into it. And when he goes, detective, and when you're like, oh, you get it. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and that's what makes those movies stand out to the point where we still talk about them decades later. Who's talking about? I can't even remember the name of the last Who Done It by Ryan Johnson, because he's got another one.
Things.
Oh, those stupid onions. They're making another one. They're doing
another one. Yep, because I just saw some still shots, I think, of Daniel Craig's character in it's a Knives Out saga or whatever.
I think Knives Out was the first poorly made, and I don't know.
I didn't watch the Onion one. Yeah, Netflix apparently now is the one funding them.
Do you know one thing saying, like, I actually like, because they went back to his modern day, is the Kenneth Branagh when he did the
Death on the Nile, the Agatha
those ones
murder.
Yeah, out of curiosity, they did them three, didn't he? He did that, and I think they're really good. They're good. They're not like, I'm not going to say they're things, but they get you
on the tin, as you said.
Yes, and they make you want to watch all three. They go, oh, what's that?
And they make you want to read some Agatha Christie, I think. Because there's more, because she wrote prolifically, and most of her novels are so, you could take any one of her novels and say, this is good. This would be good for a film or a movie. And I know tons of them have been done on our PBS stations or your BBC channels. And you're British, you love your, like, what we used to call the Sunday afternoon mysteries on our public television. It would be either an Agatha Christie, like a Poirot, or it would be like Murder in Some Little Town. You have all those little,
Lovejoy. Lovejoy.
Morse
Yeah,
and Lovejoy and
Morse, yeah,
Endeavor and Lindley, whatever it is. But take that and then you take something stupid like the Glass Onion and the rant that I believe Critical Drinker and Mahler went on was just made me even angrier over those movies.
Yeah,
And the
I
reason I'm
think
so
that's where I
angry,
found out the most about those was from them too.
the reason
yeah.
I'm so
But it's a
angry is
JJ school, isn't it? JJ Abrams school of thinking,
Yeah.
isn't it? It's like we're like he's the main escape for Lost, isn't he? It's like,
oh my God,
oh,
Lost is the
and everybody
most,
was like, "Oh, you are kidding me! F off!" Like because the ending is
Lost
so there's
is
no
the
there's
most
no yeah.
nominative deterministic work of art ever made. It's called Lost and it got lost. That is nominative determinism. The name
Yeah,
determines
fair
what it
enough.
is. That was garbage. But the reason why the Glass Onion Knives movies make me so angry is because I know very intelligent people who like those films.
Mhm.
And I can't understand what's wrong with them. These are
Yeah.
people I admire, people I work with, and they lap that garbage up.
I only watched the first one and
Oh,
I didn't leave it. I just didn't think it was great. Like I can't really remember it other than Ana de Armas being in it because I'm a big fan of her. She's a very pretty woman, and I do enjoy Ana de Armas when she
there you
appears
go.
in movies.
Not a
That
weird crush
is
at all.
back to our conversation a few weeks ago of the hall pass or the one that you always let the significant other say. Like, if you had one person to pick, yeah, Ana de Armas would be high on that list. But you know, I remember watching it is the best way that I can put that. I don't remember leaving pissed off by
You
it.
just
I don't
happened to
remember
be
being
there while
like,
it was on.
yeah,
Yeah.
like I don't
But
remember
that's the thing
leaving
is
like,
people
oh, this
might-
was great. It's a great whodunit. Like, no, I just kind of was like, oh, well, that was a movie.
But that's
And then
it,
I
like,
skipped Glass Onion.
but that's the thing. You got how many is that? I can't remember how many he's done of those like series.
Just
like,
those
but
two, I believe, for now.
There's another
is
one
it-
in
there's
in
another one, isn't there? In the making,
Yeah.
yeah,
but
development.
I
Like
feel like
nobody
he likes
talks
to try to
about.
subvert
Nobody talks about. They're just
expectations.
trash on a TV screen. They
Yeah.
are. They're literally trash. Because one thing is, like you do not get that what was in the box, or you know, like
Oh man, what a scene that is.
or you get Quentin Tarantino, like what was in the briefcase. You just don't get that.
Mhm.
Nobody talks about him. Nobody gives a crap.
Well, and it's
It's
because
just like,
the device they use is so stupid. They solve the mystery by telling you something that you never saw
Right.
in the
That was
film.
never part of the mystery.
There's
it
no
always
little,
does
oh,
it.
let
It
me go back
always
and
does it.
watch it. No,
Scooby-Doo
they just
does a
made
better
it up.
job at leaving
Yes,
breadcrumbs in the
100%,
mystery.
yes.
Like if you see who is the typical mask off moment in Scooby-Doo, when you see who it was and you look back in the episode, you go, oh yeah, those breadcrumbs
Oh,
were
yeah,
there
of
all
course it
episode.
could be that
Like
person.
Yeah.
even Scooby-Doo does it better than a lot of
No,
Didn't
people.
you know
I
there was a twin? I like,
Right.
F you.
Oh
I'm
yeah, 'cause we were
sorry.
just supposed to know
Yeah.
that. Ah, it's ridiculous.
but like
Ugh.
almost said, like we said it like Inside Man. Like we
Yeah,
said
yeah,
that, like
that's
that
another
is a
good one.
good.
That's
That's a
another
good
good
one
one.
because you forget what you're seeing.
I really like
Is
that movie.
is
I
the
have to read it.
setup is what
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
seeing at the end, and it's great. It's
Yeah.
a great movie, and it's like that. Like they don't. Like, I don't get how somebody could sign off as a producer. Like this person is constantly fouled. Is they don't make money.
think there's
They
just- I
don't
think
make
there's
money,
just a
and it's
lot
just
of-
like, oh, by the way, what's the ending? Well, the ending is something you won't see because it's not in the screenplay. You could write a 200 page screenplay, and then the last 2 pages is the outing, is what your payoff is. And you're like, so what's the payoff? It's not a payoff because it's not in the movie.
You've
just
wasted
don't
my
get
time
people
for
with
2 hours. Yep.
Yeah.
I think there's honestly just a bit of a problem in Hollywood, probably, now more than ever, where, it's always a thing. Everybody, there's nepotism in all, industries.
But,
Don't get me wrong, but
it's
it
like
just
not
seems
just
like there's
fillers.
people who have these jobs in producer roles and writing roles and directing roles that really probably aren't that good at their job. Maybe they know somebody who knows somebody, or the daughter or the cousin or the aunt, the whatever of somebody who's somebody. Isn't JJ Abrams like related to Spielberg in some way, or some relationship with Spielberg? Like,
is it like they've got the little black book that they've got the names of, and
like these are the people we're gonna,
people.
it's
Got
just
all the dirt.
these kind of it just seems like more than ever there's people who are just unqualified in some of these jobs, because you're seeing movies get greenlit that are like, what producers, what studios are greenlighting these, and then you're seeing products come out that you're like, who the hell wrote this or who directed this? And you see the you go to their IMDb, you see their list of credentials, and there's not much there. So it's like, what is going on here that the talent just isn't there anymore?
So, sorry, talking about not talent, bad movies. Jay, did you do what you said you were doing last week? And did you watch Captain America?
Oh no! So that's tonight. Actually, that is part of my So happy Valentine's Day.
That is your romantic.
The romantic part of the night is the dinner. The dinner will be nice, and we're specifically doing it before the movie, so we don't lose our appetites or anything from bad movie or too much popcorn.
Oh my gosh!
But
So
we're doing dinner first, and then we are gonna go see that movie tonight. So review pending.
Yeah, I've heard great things. Apparently, it's really good.
Yeah, I've done my best to avoid. Well, I as always, I try not to watch any reviews, anything, just because I want a fresh slate. But scrolling through YouTube, you do scroll past a few thumbnails and titles, and it's so far in that regard, it's about what I expected. But I've stayed away from listening to anybody's detailed breakdowns because I don't want to be downloading opinions subconsciously. So we want to live stream walking out of the scene.
Oh my God! Yes,
the instant reaction. Mm-hmm. So my poor wife, she's just happy to go to the movies because she loves going out to the movies. But she's gonna.
What else?
She actually asked me earlier. She's like, "Oh, what movie are we gonna go see after dinner?" By the way, I'm like, "Oh, it's not gonna be great. I'm just forewarning you now. It's not gonna be a particularly good one. I don't think. Maybe it's at least not as bad as when I took her to have to go see Madam Web. I know I keep picking on that one today." But my wife, honestly, since I've started doing YouTube and doing movie stuff and all that, as opposed to just having my thoughts to myself when I watch movies, I've been doing a lot more of just kind of verbalizing it out loud with her as we watch stuff. Because, more so just because I know that can be annoying to people. Some people just want to watch the movie. They don't want to listen to my opinions on it as we're watching it. But since I've been doing YouTube, I've kind of done it a little bit more out loud with her as we're watching them. Typically more at home than in the theater. But because of it, she's actually been doing quite a bit of it now too. So she's getting pretty good at kind of analyzing and seeing things on movies because she'll now point out crappy things in movies and be like, "Oh, that seems illogical." And I'm like, "Wow, good. You're right. It does. It is illogical because of this, and that." So she's really getting pretty good at, viewing movies differently than she used to because she wasn't a big movie watcher. It would be, like I said before, she just used to watch reruns of Sex and the City all the time. That was her thing. So I've really
nothing wrong with that.
Right. And fair enough. That and Law and Order SVU are two favorite things.
I still think there's 3 people that want to do that.
We do. We need our Sex in the City chat. Yep.
So since doing this, she's been watching more movies alongside of me. So we have these conversations because it's fun. And even when I took her to see Madam Web, I was like, I'm just letting you know now, this is not going to be a good movie. Like, this is going to be a painful 2 hours to get through, but I've got to do this review, so I got to watch it. Like, you want to come with me? So she did. And she had a lot of fun kind of crapping all over it with me when we came out of the movie. That typical, the person you go with, you talk about what you just saw as soon as you walk out. And, she has been finding enjoyment in finding the bad things in bad movies too. So I do think we'll have fun with it. If it is bad, I'm assuming it's not great, but we'll see. I'm trying to put my preconceived notions to the side and judge it for what it is. But regardless, she'll still have some fun, even if it's a bad movie and we just kind of crap on it on the way out.
Yeah, I still remember the opposite opinion to my girlfriend, that she's not a Star Wars fan. She's not really a sci-fi fan. And then she bought me the tickets to The Last Jedi.
Ooh.
And then literally there was the walk, down the escalators to the car. And we got outside and I was just like, literally like, she got outside and she was like, oh, being positive. She didn't really like it, but she's positive. Like, it's a Star Wars movie, it's a sci-fi movie. She was like, "What did you think?" And I just was like, "What was that?" she said it was in my face. I looked the most upset I've ever did in my life. I was just like, "What was that?" Like that. But that was the thing. Afterwards, she was like, "Oh no." I didn't want to be negative and positive about it before you gave your opinion. But after, she was like, "Oh, you look really upset." You look really upset. But that's it, yeah. But that's it. But talking about upset movies and what we could get, because we got a good one next week. But
yes, we do.
We got Ghostbusters next week. Hooray!
And you know what I forgot? Chat. Ghostbusters will be kind of the day after my birthday. So it will be a
Oh,
birthday film club.
Nice.
That's it. What a
nice.
good movie to do. The Ghostbusters.
Yeah, nice, fun,
Yeah,
good one.
that is a fun movie. So yeah, my birthday's 21st. So I might do try and do a Friday one if I can. But you have to an early one because I'm going out for a meal, not a cinema, just for a meal. So that's it.
No Captain America 4 for you, huh?
No.
Well, now
So
your
Aw.
birthday's gonna be ruined.
yeah, it's so the girlfriend's parents are babysitting, and we're going out for a
Oh,
meal.
nice,
So that's
Nice.
Can't
That's
go
it.
wrong.
Once a year, people. It's lovely. then Ghostbusters, so that'd be good. So when we get back, we'll watch a bit of Ghostbusters. Great one, a great one to entertain for my birthday. I was like, oh my god, I completely forgot it was my birthday stream kind of thing. So that will be kind of my birthday stream. So everybody, yay! I'm 21 again.
21 again.
21. Hey,
Yeah.
today. Okay. Anyway, on that, hopefully there's not a bad movie in here unless somebody put one in. That's it. We lucky enough
Bad
we don't have.
movies in here.
They're not a
They
bad
don't
movies.
deserve to be on the wheel of film.
I don't know. Critters was borderline.
Critters
That was
borderline. That's a B movie. The best B movie on here. Either I'm putting Army of Darkness in. I don't know if that's not there. Oh, maybe we have to do that. There we go. Okay, ready?
Ready.
Let's do this. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
How many more gangster films on this wheel? I feel like we haven't had one.
Try 200. Oh, it's going blue. Is it going green? Oh, Inner Space. Okay.
I have never heard of this one.
That's been a long time since I've seen that one.
I know. Okay, is this a kids?
Is this a comedy? Is this
It's a comedy. Yeah,
I think we're going to call it a comedy.
Have you not watched Inner Space? Inner Space,
1987. Oh, Martin Short.
Martin Short.
Okay, I like that.
Meg Ryan,
Dennis Quaid.
Dennis Quaid.
It's not time travel. It's
this is one of mine. This is one of mine. This has to be. Yeah,
I have not seen this one.
Science fiction gone a bit weird, and it's got the Doctor out of Star Trek Voyager. Who plays the Texan?
Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
I know. I was
look it up now. Look it up now. Look it up. I can't remember his name, but yeah, he's played the hologram.
Picado? It says he plays the cowboy. I'm assuming that's
the cowboy. That's it. Yes, that's it. Yeah, he is the Doctor out of Star Trek Voyager. So like, who plays the hologram Doctor? But yeah, this is a funny one. This is a funny one and weird one. This would be quite weird because like how Jay like it is funny, but is it?
I don't know if this is aged well. I'm wondering because I don't think I've seen this since the 90s, so I wonder how it's going to age.
Oh yeah.
I do like Martin Short quite a bit, so
it is quite funny. There are there are some funny moments. Yeah, that's it. But yeah, I won't give it away. But it's a science fiction comedy. It's a bit odd. We've had a bit of a crime element into it. Like it's gangster. There is actually a gangster kind of element into it. It's a bit silly. It's a bit like that. But yeah, this is a very, I suppose, 80s teen comedy movie. Yeah, it's great. So we've not had one of these ones before. So yeah, Inner Space. So yeah. So we're gonna have there you go, 2 comedies in a row. Then
kind of
two 80s kind of
Ghostbusters sci-fi, I guess. It's
so we have
not like
2
traditional
kind of comedy
sci-fi aliens, but it's ghosts, so 2 sci-fi comedies.
Yeah, sci-fi comedies in a row. Inner Space, I like Inner Space. I've watched it recently, I must say, like in the last 5 years. And I liked it still. It was still entertaining. So I hope maybe that's because I remember it from being a kid. I think there's ones in there, but it's a good concept though. Like we had to see, like I can't remember off the top of my head, but I don't think how they do the science fiction CGI doesn't matter because
we're gonna see how bad or good it looks.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, that's a good one. But yeah, another one, Jay. Another one you're not seeing. So yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's it. It's not groundbreaking, but it's good. Let's say that. But yeah,
Cool.
so there you go. So we got 2 comedies after we've went a bit dry on comedies and went a bit hard hitting. The comedies are coming out. So that's very, very good. But there we go. So yeah, we'll have the things. But yeah, next is who are you gonna call?
Ghostbusters.
Yay! Or you can call me an old git because I'm getting older. So that's it. So birthday stream, Ghostbusters, a little bit of fun tonight. Jay, wait, hold it, Jay. What are you having for dinner? I'm gonna have to shoot dinner.
We're going to a nice fancy steakhouse, so we're gonna have a nice dinner.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
That'll make up for the the post dinner movie.
Yeah. You're not one of these people that goes to steakhouse and it's a chicken.
Oh, a buddy of mine does that and drives me nuts every time. You want to go to a steakhouse then?
Yeah, cool.
I had filet mignon last night. Oh, it was so good, and there's some left in the fridge for today.
There you go.
Yeah,
I did for last night. I did for my girlfriend. It was a scallop starter with this sauce like I make, and then we did a probably like a 10-ounce sirloin. That's it, with just like blue cheese sauce, some chips, and asparagus fried, and that was it. So yeah, for both of us, she was like, oh, and then like when it got to that point, you're like, oh, I'm done. And then she bought like this chocolate mousse cake, I suppose, like that really fancy thing, and he was just like, oh, and he got to it, you're like, oh, I'm done, but it's good. Well, we don't do cards and all that. Like the whole thing is like I always do, like because I don't eat seafood, so I'm like, no, let's I'm gonna properly do it for you. And like, so once a year she gets her seafood hit because we don't normally have it. So yeah, so that was my little Valentine's. She knows about that. So instead of like the normal, the I suppose the corporate cards, flowers, and all that. No, we do like that. Especially as my mum was a florist, I get annoyed how much flowers cost. I'm like,
yeah. Especially on Valentine's Day, they hike up that price a little bit.
They do.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's like, wow, I've been wholesale, and that is ridiculous. Yeah.
Yep.
But yeah. So guys, what have you got going on? Sandy, you doing another live stream tomorrow?
No, it's going to be raining all day tomorrow. So I'm just in tomorrow. I have like a year's worth of cataloging and indexing to do on a couple of projects. But no, nothing tomorrow. Maybe later in the week. Maybe I'll do another. My nighttime streams are super popular, so maybe I'll do that. But yeah, I did that walk through Georgetown a couple of nights ago. Super crystal clear night. Hit all the really the old buildings and such. So that was a lot of fun. But this will be a slower week. How about you, Jay? What's going on? When are you streaming?
Sorry, Sandy, but for the chat, Sandy does have a dark web one where she does do a night stream into people's houses, apparently. And
yep.
That's what we found out today, just to let you know.
I've got nicknames from people and everything. Yep. I do. Jay, when are you streaming next? I think you should do like an immediate reaction out of the theater.
I really need to get back to streaming.
You need to go live. You'll get a million viewers. Live,
yeah.
Do it.
I feel like at this point, it's been so long since I've done one that I just feel like I've got a lot of rust build up too. So I got to just shake the rust off and get back into it.
Just do it. Do it outside. Yeah. It's fun. The first time you do it, you won't be able to stop. It's addictive. Look at me.
I do have to fire one up. It's been like, I think a month since I've done a stream. So I do have to do a stream. But whenever that happens, we will see. Until then, I have a couple reviews I'm working on. One will be Captain America, but I have to I have to actually watch it first. In the other one I'm going to be doing, hopefully this weekend, since I've got a long weekend, is one for the movie The Gorge, which is a new movie that just came out on Apple TV with Miles Teller and Anya Taylor-Joy. It is a kind of thriller, action, horror mix. I'm about halfway through watching it. I actually decided to throw it on before we started the show today. So I've got through about half of it, and it's not bad. So far, we'll see how it ends, but it's not bad. Not groundbreaking, nothing crazy, but it's a nice kind of interesting concept and something just new, which is something I've been looking for a while. I'm getting tired of just rehashing old stuff or continuing along with some of these superhero franchises that are just stale as it gets right now. So it's kind of what I've been asking for, something new, something different. You know, you can see some kind of inspirations taken from other movies for sure, but yeah, I've been kind of enjoying the first half of it. So I'm going to finish off that half probably either later tonight or tomorrow and work on that review as well. And then just brainstorming some other kind of video ideas too. I want to do some stuff with some video games. So I've got a few things jotted down that I'm going to kind of brainstorm more on. So just, you know, keep an eye out for the Nerd Takes channel. You'll see some things pop up.
Cool. For myself, now this is going to be funny. Not for me. It wasn't funny. But Jay, remember when you jumped into my channel and you'd say, "Oh, have you jumped yet?" And I was doing that live thing. So I said, "Go back 30 seconds," and you hear me screaming like a little girl.
Yeah, it was a good one.
True. It was a good one. And apparently at the same time, girlfriend kind of popped in. She was like, "What was Jay talking about?" I was like, "Oh, you have to watch it, and then if you went back 30 seconds, you have to watch it." She was like, "Oh, like bring it back on the big screen." So I was like, "Oh, okay, let's say like you can have a laugh." So there was got up to the thing, and the worst thing is, I knew it was gonna come because I've already played it, and it made me jump.
No, made you jump.
Literally made me jump again.
God.
And she was like, she just wet herself. She was literally
no.
And then I was
sure
like,
she was like,
Jade,
"Oh,
that's a tough look.
And then she was like, "Oh, what a thing!" She went, "Oh, did Abe say something about? Oh, this is the greatest." Like, I was playing another one. She went, "Like, I heard Abe say, like, oh, you were like the best walking simulator ever." And then, there was a bit I had to go down to a basement. Oh my. Oh, it was horrid. And I was like, "Oh, so I'm going to play that one." Like, I don't know if my body can take it. I didn't realize I'm that jumpy on those kind of games.
Oh, how funny.
I didn't realize how bad I am. And I liken them. I thoroughly hate them. That Dream Cage, though, is probably the horrid. It's just horrid. It is literally probably the worst, best game I've played because I absolutely. Oh my god! Look at that! Look at that.
There it is.
She's literally really. Oh my god!
That's
it literally was
double jump is crazy.
I was like, "Oh," and she was like, "Did you just jump again?" I was like, "No," and I was like,
"Too late." Like, she saw.
Oh my god! No, I knew it was gonna come, and I was like, "Oh." So I've got a couple that I might have to play, but yeah, I do like playing them. Oh, I hate that game. That game was not. That wasn't nice. That wasn't. But yeah, I didn't realize I was that jumpy. I knew I was jumpy, but that was. Yeah, that was like that. And I keep on apologizing for my like swearing. It's like really bad, but you can't help it. I'm like, fuck shit, like that. Like sometimes I'm really polite and and the worst thing is there was one bit I can't remember like later on in that game, like Breakfast Jade was literally texting me and I was like, oh, but I wasn't paying attention. 100%, and then I realized what was going on, and I really did jump. I mean, I was like, "Oh, flipping it!" I had to take a moment. I was just like, "That is going." My heart is.
You gotta,
really bad.
You gotta set up the heart monitor.
Yes, you do.
Monitor. Oh my god,
yes,
I would love to see what those numbers spike to.
Oh my god, that Dream Cage from the first. I even wall myself in the game. I was like, because. It was worse actually because I had the buds in. It was louder than it came across because all I could hear was the and it came subtly across on the stream. But what I was hearing was terrible. It was terrible. But when they did the jump stream, like whoever the developers were, I think it was like a couple of guys. Wow, they did it well. And I even had like afterwards, I was like, that was bad. But fair play to them. They did what was on the tin. So I've got a couple there. Like the last one I played was weird. Like I couldn't call her the granny. It turned out to be my mum.
What?
Just no, like in the game, isn't called Demon Omen. And like I read it as Demon Omen.
Glimpses of that game before on some shorts or something.
Oh,
because I missed that stream because I remember seeing it later. I was like, I missed the Faces stream. I have to go back and check it out because I think I know what game you're actually talking about. Like the granny is like a demon or something.
No, she
Is
wasn't.
it that
She
one? Oh,
wasn't.
maybe I'm thinking of
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird thing. It was a kid. There was kids in it, screaming little kids like that. It's like a playground thing. And then I thought, oh, that's my granny, but then it ended up being my mummy. And it was just like it was a bit weird. And it was like, and it was a mummy, and it was there was like Michael in it.
sounds different than
And
what I'm thinking of.
it was just like, oh, this is a bit freaky. And they played on the old kid thing at the end, and I was like, oh, like little girl, like a laughing kid, just
Oh yeah, that creepy
like,
laughter.
Well, you mentioned having
oh.
earbuds in. Like when I have my full normally I only have my, one earphone over my ear and the other one, to listen to the room.
Yep, I'm the
But
same
when
way.
you have the full earphones on, when you're playing a spooky game, that's the worst because you can't hear anything. You're
No.
immersed. So, okay, I'm playing Satisfactory, the game where you're building stuff. Not a spooky game. Satisfactory. It's a factory game. So I'm doing my thing. And the little voice of the computer always comes on every once in a while and tells you, that you have researched a new technology. Well, all of a sudden, at one point in the game, the voice changes to this alien demon. Holy moly. I'm playing this game. I'm just doing my thing. I might be playing casually. I'm looking at other things. And all of a sudden, this demon voice that's louder than the normal computer comes on to tell you about some religious thing in the game. I'm like, oh, I did. I jumped. Thank goodness I wasn't playing with my fountain pen ink because there would have been ink all ceiling at that point. Thank goodness I didn't have anything in my hands. But yeah, even in Satisfactory, just the change in the voice when you're immersed is like,
I get it. I think I build myself up. I like the games that don't like. I was like one of them. I think it was like I was a bit overconfident. I was like, eh, and then it just went downhill from then. So yeah, I'm doing it for a little bit of entertainment. But I don't know what to play at the moment. Like, there's not much things. I might go back to Skyrim. I think
That's why
I might
I haven't streamed too
that'd
much
be nice
lately,
to
to be
stream.
honest with you. I can't pick a game that I want to play right now on stream. For the life, I have checked Game Pass, Steam, all of it. I just I don't know what it is. I just have not been able to settle on something to play.
But these are quite good. They're like 2 hours sometimes, like an hour, 2 hours.
Yeah.
The whole thing, they're like little chapters. I kind of like it. But yeah, I need that kind of epic one. I like Skyrim, like Jade would know, we did the old proper epic advance into it and did it all things. But I might do that. I might have to be Witcher 3, but I might go Skyrim because it's a bit more open than Witcher 3. So I might do that. But yeah, I just need that one. You can just whoop, whoop. But I do like these at the moment. I'm liking these. Don't know why. I hate it. It's a hate-love.
Yeah, I'm not so sure your heart's loving them, but
no, literally, yeah. What I say is scare a day is good for you. Yeah, literally, no, they're not.
Yeah.
Like, there's one of them. Like I was like, nope, oh nope, stop, and I had to pause the game. I was like, no, I need a breather. It was so bad. I was just like, it was like moment after moment. The worst one, like the best one, is that that Egyptian one I played. It was great.
That was
literally really, really creepy. But like one person did it, and I was like, that is good. That could be an epic.
That's impressive.
Going into like a pyramid and then just getting everything kind of comes to life. But it was a bit weird as well. But that is good. Come back to Conan, everybody. Oh, I have to do. Yeah,
I love playing co-op games. I love it when we're all playing together. And then when you all were, started again, then my work got so crazy. I couldn't really spend the time on the game. And for a while, I was ahead of you guys because I was playing before Porkchop jumped back in. But then work just got crazy. Like December and January is just
the live stream.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
She's a better gaming than me by far.
I think in terms of co-op games, Sandy, I think we'll have to get something going for Elden Ring Night Rain when it comes out.
I am looking forward to it. I am afraid I won't sleep. It'll be I won't be able to stop playing. But yeah, I think at a minimum, I told someone, who was it? Was it Dan who said he might start Elden Ring? Maybe.
Oh my god! I would love to see.
But I told him I would be.
I would love to see that.
I'd be his Elden Ring.
Is it a DLC or is it a brand new game?
Total new game.
It's a new game that allows co-op. So I don't know now. My understanding, but I don't know if I trust the website, was that there was a test last night that completely,
I
utterly
thought
failed.
Oh, I saw the announcement of the test. I didn't see the results of it. That's
But I don't know if I trust that website. So I'm just saying,
Mm.
I don't know. So looking forward to I love the whole, the gameplay for those games. For me, I know some people hate the Souls
it
game
tends to be love-hate, or love or
gameplay.
hate, rather.
Hey, you know what? If I have to fight a boss 83 times to beat it, it's going to feel that much better when I beat that
Yep.
boss. And I'm all in the crew of like, get good. You know, if you're
Mhm,
going to complain
100%.
about the difficulty of Souls games or Elden Ring, you know what? Then it's not the game for you.
Right. There's other games to play. Play Minecraft. I don't know, but
Exactly.
don't come after Elden Ring.
Oh, Jane's playing Elden Ring. Yeah, I stopped, and then I still have a game, like the game I restarted this year. I've not finished the game. I have only played one of the major bosses because I just want to find every single thing in the world. So
Mhm.
I'm just playing an exploration game right now.
Yeah, I like
I'm
those
not.
ones where you
Yeah,
can go
that's
to the
always
boss,
fun.
but I always go off. I
The
always
world is
wonder.
huge.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
always do wonder. They'd be like, "You're not doing the main task." I went, "Yeah, I like to wonder. I like to wonder." That's
Mhm.
why I do like Red Dead. Took me ages, just because I
Yeah.
wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder.
And
I do
there's
the
a lot to
hunting thing
see.
before anything else. Like that, I'm just wondering.
Yeah. There's a
I do
lot to
hunting
see.
for 4 months.
That was
Mhm.
like, those were some of your best watched streams. Those
Yeah.
hunting, those
Oh,
hunters.
well,
Yeah, those
yeah,
were fun.
hunting.
Those
Yeah.
were fun.
Those were frustrating for me because like I didn't have the patience. I did not have the patience. I'm like, where are these animals?
I've got to make a small list of some games that I'm going to stream, because
Yeah.
that's been part of my issue of getting back into streaming, is I just don't know what to play right now. In my personal gaming, I've been
How
playing
about
a few
NHL?
games, but
NHL 93, and then see if
you
you can
know,
beat
I
them on
could have
the-
sworn that was on Game Pass, but I was looking for it after one of the times you were playing. And I couldn't see it, so I don't know where that is nowadays.
Well,
Maybe-
I
Oh,
want to see you two play
I
against
can give
each
you
other.
where you can get it.
Bruins
Yeah.
versus Maple Leafs. Go for it. Or
Maple
Canadians.
Leafs.
I'm sorry,
What?
Canadians.
What?
Sorry,
That's even
Canadians.
worse.
I hate
Canadians,
both
Canadians.
teams, in fairness, so fair enough.
Canadians. Sorry. I knew
But
it as
yeah.
soon as it came out of my mouth. I knew it was wrong. Canadians. Canadians.
Especially as Jade supports the Bruins, so it's even worse.
Uh-huh.
She'll take the piss now.
Yeah, I'll have to get a few games together or something, because I do want to get back into streaming. I do miss it. It's fun. I've let a little bit too much time go by since my last one, so now I feel like a little bit of the nerves and the rust is built up, so I got to get back into it.
Excellent. Well, on that, we need to think. I might play Paperboy next. I don't know.
Oh
Probably
man, I
joking,
haven't
but-
played Paperboy in ages.
I saw it. I was like, "Ooh,
Yeah, no, that was
fun."
what I used to
don't even
have.
know how to play it. I was like, Paperboy. I remember loving it. I don't remember how to play it.
I used to have a game for my original Xbox that was like a compilation of like 100 old arcade cabinet games and just old console games. I can't remember what company it was under. It might have just been like a mix match of a bunch of different ones from different gaming companies.
Like
Yeah, something like that, basically.
Yeah.
Yep, something
Like
like that,
everything was on
basically.
it.
Yep, and this one had Paperboy. It had what was it? The beer. It's not beer tap. What was it called? The one where you were like a bartender and you had to serve the beer to people too. I
Oh,
can't
what
think
was
of the
that
name
called?
of it.
Oh my gosh, what was
Oh,
that?
man.
Hang on.
Beer
Is it-
tap, was it? No, it was something.
Hang
Oh
on.
God,
Is
it's
it- is
Because
slipping
I
my
like
mind,
that
but
game.
oh yeah, there
It's
was
in Wreck-It Ralph 2 as well, isn't it? They do
I'm
like
not sure.
Wreck-It Ralph is they play
But
onto
it had a bunch of games like that on it, and I used to play Paperboy, the bartender one,
Tapper.
Tapper. See, I knew it
Tapper,
was
just
something with
Tapper.
tap in it.
Yeah.
I knew it was something with something to do with beer taps. But yeah, just it had so many games like that. Paperboy was one. I used to love playing that game. Spy Hunter was on it. Just a whole mixed match of old arcade games.
But
I used
cool.
to like Galaga.
Oh, yeah, that's good. But yeah, so on the retro, we have to get some retro gaming going on. Then that'd be cool. But then when next week we got a retro film with the Ghostbusters. So
Well, there was a game, Jay. There was a Ghostbusters game.
Oh, you know what? And I did look it up. I do
Yes.
have that on my PlayStation. Maybe that's
Nice.
the one I'll stream
Oh,
next.
there you go.
I
You have to
think
did
do
have
you
it in my
should.
library. I gotta find my capture card because I don't know where the
There you
hell I
go.
put that thing
can
when I
be
rearranged
your
my desk.
birthday present to me. I want you to play Ghostbusters.
I'll see if I can make that happen. I think that's an easy
There
one
we
to
go.
do.
There we go.
Awesome.
Cool. But yeah, on that note, everybody on the panel really appreciate you always being here. A little bit of fun for Rear Window and a lot of fun 100% next week is going to be a fun time. Birthday stream and Ghostbusters.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! Exactly. So who are you going to call? You're going to call for my birthday. And I won't tell you how old I am yet.
Everybody in chat has to guess that week. We'll put a
There
poll.
we go. There we go. But yeah, maybe it'll be the same age as James Stewart. You never know in this movie. You never know. But everybody, I hope you have a great early little stream because Jay's off to I'm guessing a romantic,
well, it's gonna start romantic, and then we'll see what happens with the movie.
Yeah.
When we get to
I mean,
the dinner will be romantic.
It's off wife at the end of it. What did you just do to me? Maybe
it won't be as bad as we all think it is. Maybe it won't be.
I am hoping it's not that bad, just for the sake of like viewing experience too. I just don't want to sit through 2 hours of a terrible movie. So if it's just like crap, then whatever. But if it's like god awful, it's gonna be painful.
Yeah, you have to tweet out or something what it's been. But no, and then we all know. Ooh, it's gonna be good. Anyway, have a great one, everyone. Have a great rest of the weekend. Hands together, pray for Jay and his wife for later. But until that, at least for Film Club, Ghostbusters. Yay! So who are you gonna call? Find out next week.